across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. And coming up at midnight is the full hour of Phone In. And what I want to talk to you about, I've got lots of figures and facts and bits and pieces in front of me about the British prison system. There's a big report due to come out tomorrow, and it is actually embargoed till midnight, but hey, just talking about the state of prisons at the moment. So I won't go into the details of that until midnight, but I want to know what kind of prison or what kind of prison system you think we need in this country. When I tell you that we have got the worst reoffending rate in the world, I was shocked by that, actually. I really didn't believe that that was the case. And I've got all sorts of numbers from very severe prison incarceration, like in the United States. Most people go, we should have more prisons like the US. Well, they've got a recidivism rate of 55%, so they're not doing that well. We're doing far worse. And then you go to the other side, where you go to Norway, where they have much better rehabilitation, they've got much better reforms for prisoners, a much more gentle prison system, and their recidivism rate is about 20%. So I just don't, I'm kind of a bit confused as to what kind of prison works. What I do know for certain is that our system is failing. It is failing you, it's failing me, it's failing victims, and it is also failing prisoners. It's failing everybody. It's failing the taxpayer. It is an absolute disaster. So if we were to redesign the prison system, if you've been inside the prison system, I would love to hear from you, because you will know what should be done, how it can be changed, what we should be doing in order to help prisoners as well when they come out of jail. And I know that's unpopular. People go, well, we shouldn't be helping them, they're prisoners, they're criminals. The trouble is, if we don't help them, if we don't get them off drugs, if we don't put them in some accommodation, if we don't, then they return to a life of crime, and then we start the cycle all over again. I think it's time that we grew up and figured out what actually works. So if you've ever been in touch with the law in that way, if you've ever been arrested, been charged, you've done community service, you've done prison time, I would love to hear from you. If you ever worked in prisons, I'd love to talk to you as well. So let me know, what kind of prisons should we have? Now, you may say we need El Salvadorian prisons. Well, that's what kind of prison that we need. We need something really revolting that acts as a deterrent. Maybe that's what you believe. Or maybe you believe we should go the way of Norway and have much gentler prisons, a much kinder way of treating criminals, and no or barely any recidivism rate. Give me a call, let me know. 0344 499 1000. You can message me as well. You can text TALK and then your message to 87222. And you can WhatsApp as well on 0344 499 1000. So all of that is coming up at midnight. Before that, we have the fabulous Cody Darla, comedy writer and podcaster, here in the studio to go through the newspapers for Tuesday. Ryan Harris is here, a US journalist and broadcaster, going through some really weird news that's going on in the States at the moment. Weird as in largely amusing, not as in the usual stuff that I talk about. Alex Three Lions Irons will be here as well from Talk Sport to talk us through the weekend's sporting actions and what's coming up. But first, the devastation in Texas at the moment. The Texas flooding, at least 91 dead the last time that it was updated for us here in the UK. It's believed there are about 40 to 41 people still missing. 10 of those are little girls from the Christian camp in Kerr County. But 91 are now confirmed dead. It's raining there. There's likely to be more flooding, but the numbers are absolutely extraordinary in this. That river, one of those rivers, rose 26 feet in 2 hours. 26 feet in 2 hours. It's 8 meters. It's just over 8 meters. Absolutely extraordinary to imagine that wall of water heading towards those populated areas. So we decided to catch up with the very latest on this with Christine Bellino, who is co-host of the Jacksonville's Morning News and news director at WOKV Radio, and she's been covering this story. Christine, thank you so much for joining me. I'm certain that you are extremely busy on this. Can you just bring us up to the latest on this?
Certainly, and always a pleasure to speak with you. I just wish it was under better circumstances. So as you said, about at least 91 folks are confirmed dead. What is very troubling about those statistics is more than a dozen of the people who have been recovered are adults, and at least 9 of them are children who have been unidentified right now. So still lots of parents are not able to identify their children, and for many of them, they're still missing. One of the things that's important to realize, and you touched on it, is that there is still a lot of rain predicted for this area. And most of this is taking place in Kerr County, Texas, but it does span multiple counties, and the line of the river that is affected is more than 100 kilometers. So there is still very much, I just watched the latest press conference, and there's still the hope that they are going to be able to recover some of those folks, and that before they switch or rescue those folks before they switch to a recovery effort. But I see you're showing the photos now. Just devastation. There's lots of political concerns about this right now. I'm sure you know the United States is a ridiculously political country, and there is no shortage of people who are taking political sides on this. Senator Ted Cruz, who is the Republican senator, or a Republican senator from the state of Texas, said, this is not a time to point fingers at anyone. We should take a nonpartisan approach to this, but there is a very real and partisan effect here, and that is that at least 600 people from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and 108 people from the National Weather Service have been fired as a part of the Trump administration, and they're going back and forth as to who's to blame. Did they get the warnings on time? And I'm sure we're going to hear about that for months to come, and I'm certain that you folks will be covering that as well, because there will be lots of congressional hearings on that. But for now, the focus is definitely on recovering those, rescuing those who are still hopefully alive. Now, a big portion of this was it hit a campsite with little girls who were basically spending the summer at this campsite, and complicated by the fact that it was Independence Day weekend for many here. So no one was prepared for any of this. And even though there were warnings that went out, they're still debating when those warnings went out and whether or not they were in time. But when those warnings went out early in the morning, a lot of these campers were sleeping and were, at the time of the rescue, were in their pajamas without shoes. They were very unprepared for this. So a lot of back and forth right now, Petrie, wondering about, whether or not these children especially should have been rescued at the very first signs of the weather that was happening. So, and they are expecting more. They were originally predicting between 1 and 7 inches of rain during the period, and it quickly surpassed that. And as you mentioned, the river crested, dozens of feet higher than it was ever supposed to happen. Prior to this incident, the worst thing that had happened in this part of the country was a flood that had happened in 1987. And during that flood in Comfort, Texas, 10 people were killed, 10 teenagers were killed. So the death toll in this latest incident far exceeding that. So there are multiple agencies. There are 19 local, state, and federal agencies that are now involved in the rescue effort. And the flood zone still spanning multiple counties. People from lots of states are headed that way to help them. But it really remains to be seen what additional flooding that area will face and how long it will be before they actually recover.
I understand as well that almost ironically that Mexican firefighters have come across to help. I mean, they helped out in many disasters. The Canadians too usually rally to help America with these disasters. Are people grateful for that, presumably?
You know, Petrie, I would hope so. This is a very challenging time in the United States. And again, our focus has to be on the ongoing rescue right now. But you are certainly right to point that out. Mexico and Canada have both been extremely friendly neighbors to the United States. They also helped out recently with the wildfires in California. And, you know, there is nothing that this administration is doing, trying my hardest to be objective here as a journalist, but there's nothing that this administration is doing to engender those folks to us. So the fact that they're helping is absolutely amazing and heroic. And, you know, other states are chipping in forces as well. You know, there's also criticism that the National Guard is being deployed to these parts of Texas, but heretofore they've had a much different job in the United States right now. So those political
I mean, it's hard. It's hard, Christine, not to look at the politics, and I do understand that there are still lives at risk. I mean, hopefully they're still alive, and there are many grieving families. But it is very hard, isn't it, to not to look at this administration and to see Donald Trump playing golf and eating ice cream this weekend, when I can only imagine that his predecessors would have at least attempted to get to parts of Texas to show support. And also the very real question of those cuts that Doge made. And it's very interesting to see, you know, the Republicans now, particularly Caroline Leavitt, saying now is not the time to discuss that, almost because they don't want to discuss it at all. But the correlation is fairly easy for most people to see, that if you lose that many experts in a field, then there will be a knock-on effect at some point.
And I'm really glad that you brought that up, Petrie, because when the wildfires were happening, the Republican Party was very quick to point out the inefficacies of, or the perceived inefficacies of, the Democratic Party and the Democratic-led government.
Yeah.
Immediately in California. And so now they're saying, you know, this is not the time for partisanship. You know, this isn't the fault of the fact that, you know, nearly 700 employees were either laid off or fired. Back in February, U.S. Congresswoman Grace Meng had said, let's see, she had said, I had written it down. She said that the layoffs were unconscionable. And this was in February. She said, this action, i.e. the layoffs, will only endanger American lives going forward. And, you know, this is not a great thing to be able to say, I told you so. And I'm sure that Congresswoman Meng is not one to say, I told you so. But I think the greater American public is pointing to this and saying, you know, there has to be accountability for this. And it's tragic that children's lives and the lives of so many people were affected by this. You know, you've had meteorologists all over the country saying we're losing our scientists because they don't have job security here anymore. And, you know, many people saying this crisis, at least to the extent that it is now, could have been at least somewhat averted. And, you know, Petrie, if you say 10 lives could have been saved, well, surely that was worth it.
And there is, of course, the FEMA as well, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Trump's plans to eliminate FEMA after the upcoming hurricane season. In fact, California is still waiting for FEMA monies after the fire. That is a blue state, of course, and Gavin Newsom is hated, and maybe that's why those monies have not been forthcoming. Texas, a red state, are they going to get FEMA support for this? Are they going to get all the help and support that they need? And will we start to see this division of, well, we'll help the red states but not the blue states?
So it's interesting as well that you pointed that out, because in the press conference today, Senator Ted Cruz said, and this was just shocking that he said it this way, he said that he called the president, and when he called the president was eating dinner. And the president said, whatever Texas needs will be there for you. So I don't know if he realized, the senator, how tone deaf that sounded, that the president was enjoying his dinner when he was notified of this. He said nothing about the president making plans to come to Texas, which you would think that he would, but he implied that the money would be there without hesitation. So I think that speaks, to itself. It is very challenging to be a journalist right now in the United States, and I worry every day that I'm going to lose my job, because I'm trying very diligently to be objective, but
yes, and I'm sorry. I'm sort of putting you on
okay.
putting you on the spot, which I don't want to do, because I am brutally aware of the situation you find yourself in, and it's for me it's completely heartbreaking as a journalist myself. The rescue efforts that are going on, my understanding is there are people on horseback, there are dogs, there's helicopters looking for heat registers. This will be ongoing, but surely at some point in the none too distant future, this will become a recovery situation.
So tonight, so it is Monday night here, Tuesday morning there, and this has been going on since Thursday night in the overnight hours. So you're absolutely right. This will very soon become a recovery operation. They were very insistent in the last press conference to say the primary search and rescue operation is still in effect. So meaning that they have not gone to a secondary rescue or a recovery operation. So that being said, I think, that's just very hopeful, because chances are high that, with each passing hour, and especially with more rain predicted, that anyone who is surviving at this point is in bad shape. The infrastructure is a disastrous mess. They've told people who are operating drones, unless you're part of the rescue effort, you cannot operate drones. No other activity is allowed except for rescue activity. So yes, you're right. There are dogs and bloodhounds and helicopters and military, National Guard, firefighters from multiple states and countries, as you mentioned, Mexico and Canada as well. Everyone is participating in this effort, but I think that we'll be hearing soon that it is now a recovery effort. So, prayerfully, we hope that the rescue effort is fruitful and that other people are rescued. But right now, they're only finding death and more destruction as the hours go on.
And the other thing as well is, was I right in reading that at least 5 million people in the area are on a flood warning as well, that this could actually spread, and it really isn't over yet. I know it's been raining there today, but it could flash again.
It absolutely could. So in Kerr County itself, there are 55,000 people, but this spans multiple counties. So there are 31 million people in the state of Texas alone, and this is hill country. So there are, there's not really good cell service in this area. It is remote and very heavily wooded and very difficult to get to. And I don't think that they even know how many people are going to be affected in this area. It is certainly in the millions. So there are massive power outages. That's complicating things. So I think at least 40 power lines are down, affecting hundreds of thousands of customers. So they can't even get to some of these folks. And the water table presumably is not fit to drink either. So there will be issues with getting clean water to people for survival reasons. For weeks to come. The only thing I can equate this to is what we recently saw over the past year in North Carolina when there were massive hurricanes. They're still cleaning up from that, and that was months ago. So we do not expect, if you look at any of the video, you'll see the water is running, it's mud. It's just muddy and murky. And so this is not an area that has the best infrastructure to begin with, except in the most populated areas. So it's going to be a long time before these folks get settled. And I think the recovery and restoration of major utilities is going to be a months-long effort. A close friend of mine works with FEMA, and he travels around the country to different disaster sites. And he had told me that the efforts in North Carolina were going to take approximately 3 years to fix. Now, this is as if a hurricane was hitting it multiple times because of the rain. So things are just getting washed away. So I anticipate that it will be the same thing. And as soon as I am able to talk with him more about it, I will let your folks know exactly what the recovery efforts look like.
Thank you. And I look forward to talking to you again, Christine. Thank you so much for your time. Christine Bellino, the co-host of the Jacksonville's Morning News and news director at WOKV Radio. So the latest numbers is 91. There's 41 people that they know of missing, but the people's hope is fast running out. Those young children who have been discovered, their bodies, they're having to be identified with DNA. So parents are being called to special areas where the DNA checks are being made. Right, quick break, back in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and it is also competition time. Here at Talk we're giving you the chance to win a pair of Oasis tickets to go to Manchester on July the 19th. So we'll also put you up in a hotel and not only that, give you £5,000 spending money, tax-free apparently. There you go. Here's everything you need to know and how to enter.
On iArcade, you have to be over 18 to enter the UK, excluding Northern Ireland, for the chance to win a pair of tickets to the most electrifying rock and roll reunion of the century, a hotel stay and £5,000 spending money. Text the word WIN to 83338 by Monday the 7th of July at 11 p.m. and you'll be entered into the draw to go supersonic this summer. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or post your name and number to Oasis Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by 5 p.m. on the 10th of July. This is a TalkSport limited promotion run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full T's and C's at talksport.com. Good luck, yeah? Sorted.
Not entirely sure That is an actual Mancunian, just saying. Anyway, look, that competition ends at 11 o'clock tonight. So if you've been sitting on the fence and thinking about it, just do it, because that's worth a bit. Even if you don't want the tickets yourself, you can sell them, I think. But anyway, that is a good competition. £5,000 as well as the tickets and a hotel. So make sure you get involved with that. And like I said, it closes at 11 o'clock tonight. So this is your last chance. Right, coming up at midnight, we're going to be talking about prisons in this country, because they're failing, right? They are a disaster. They are failing prisoners, they're failing prison guards, they're failing taxpayers, they're failing victims, they're failing everybody. They're failing everybody. We have the highest recidivism rate in the known world. It is ridiculous. After 9 years, 78% of our prisoners will re-offend. Why? Why? You look at America and they've got the toughest prisons in the world, it's 55%. You look at Norway and they've got the nicest prisons in the world where people are sort of rehabilitated and all of that, 20%. So which one works? I don't know. It seems to me that by numbers alone, we would have to get softer with prisoners. We would have to be treating them as victims, in a sense, rebuilding their lives, helping them get a job, making sure they didn't want to reoffend again like they do in Norway, to get our recidivism rate, our reoffending rate, down to 20%. So why is it we're not as bad, we're not as tough as America, and we're not as soft as Norway, but we're failing worse than either of them? So what is the right way to run a prison? What kind of jails should we have in this country? Because it's not doing anything for anybody right now and is costing us an absolute fortune. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. Just to remind you, coming up, we have some weird news coming out of America, and we have Cody Darla in the studio to go through the front pages of the newspapers for tomorrow. Now, though, let's head off to find out what's going on with sport with our Talk Sport producer and presenter, Alex Three Lions Irons. Alex, hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's nice to be back.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. Did you have a nice holiday?
Yeah, it was a peaceful 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Staycation. I was at home for most of it, to be honest. Went to a rather niche football game on the Tuesday, and then last week spent quite a fair bit of that in Margate. So yeah,
very nice. Very nice. Well, look, you can't. There's no place like home, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I can't afford to go anywhere else. So
exactly.
that's
I'm
the reason.
the same. I prefer to stay at home anyway. Let's talk about some really sad news to begin with, Alex, and that was the death of these two young rising stars.
Yeah. So last week we had the very sad news of Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva passing away. Jota at the age of 28 and Silva at the age of 25. They died in a car crash last Thursday. It was while I was away, the news happened. So I woke up, checked my phone. First thing I saw was the announcement of his death, and thought it was a horrible April Fool's joke, which was a little bit late. But no, sadly. So two very talented footballers. Diogo Jota, of course, played for Liverpool, and he was one of those players that you did not want to play against you. That's how good he was. You can admire him when he's playing against other teams, but when he's playing against you, you don't want him to be at his best. But hundreds of locals and supporters gathered in their hometown of Gondomar on Saturday for their funeral. The funeral brought together huge names from across football, including Jota's teammates, Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson at Liverpool, who were seen carrying floral tributes into the church ahead of the ceremony. Of course, his wife was also seen carrying or helping to carry the coffin into the ceremony as well, which was a very, very touching and
they'd just got married,
scene.
Hadn't they?
They'd only been married for, I think, about 2 weeks, if not less than that.
Gosh.
They had 3 very, very small children as well.
10 days, I think it was. 10 days.
11 I've got here.
Oh,
but
11.
Yeah, very,
oh my
very
God, that
sad
is
news.
so tragic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And I'm a fan of football. I'm not necessarily a Liverpool fan, but it's, you're thinking about that all day and into the weekend. Absolutely heartbreaking news. The Portugal forward, he had undergone minor surgery before the crash, and doctors had advised him against flying back to Liverpool. He and his brother were initially going to get the ferry back to the UK and drive from there. So yeah, very, very sad news coming out of Portugal and of Liverpool last week.
Liverpool as well. I mean, tragedy upon tragedy for this club.
Yeah, it was only 3 months ago that the club was celebrating their Premier League win, and of course that had tragedy following it as well, which we had just shortly after the parade. So, yeah, it's a heartbreaking time to be a Liverpool fan, and it was touching to see tributes to both of them, but to Diogo in particular from across the footballing world. You had the Gold Cup final last night between Mexico and the USA. You had Raul Jimenez, who played with Diogo Jota at Wolves before he moved to Liverpool. He scored against the USA and celebrated by putting a shirt with Jota 20, his number at Liverpool, on the ground and doing his celebration, which was pretending to play video games and having the controller in his hand. So yeah, it's been a tough week or so since the passing
and
of both those players.
There's some conversation I saw about resting the number 20 as well. Unusually, because it doesn't usually happen, does it, that they rest numbers? But there's been some talk about that.
Sometimes it happens. I think Liverpool are probably going to look at immortalising the number 20. That's how they put it. Normally, a shirt is retired when a player is, they make that shirt their own. And because Jota wore that shirt number at the time of his death, there's talk of immortalising the number 20, which some fans agree with and others don't. Personally, I feel like other players should be allowed to make their number their own, but I can understand where Liverpool, the club and the board are coming from if that's the conversation that they're having.
Yeah, I mean, and just heartbreaking to wear that that number, knowing what happened to this young player. It is just so senseless, isn't it? It's just so baffling that anything like this can happen, and these brothers in a car crash just to be gone like that.
It sounds like an accidental crash as well. There was no apparently, from what I've read, there was a flat tire which caused the car to spin off the road, and unfortunately because of that it took the lives of two very, very well respected, two loved young men who tragically lost their lives.
Yeah, and at the top of their game as well, and could only have gone further as well. It is absolutely devastating. Let's turn to the Lionesses now. The Euro 25 campaign didn't go as well as they'd hoped.
No, the midfielder Georgia Stanway said that England underperformed in their defeat by France. But there's no crisis despite knowing that they could be eliminated in the group stages at Euro 2025. That hasn't happened since 2013, when they were eliminated from the 2013 Euros. Since then, their run has been pretty spectacular. From 2015, from the World Cup onwards, they have finished no lower than the semi-finals. So from 2015, 2017 Euros and the 2019 World Cup, they finished in the semi-finals. They won the 2022 Euros. Of course, they are the reigning champions and were runners-up in the 2023 World Cup. But it's looking quite not touch and go for England, but they did lose 2-1 in Switzerland in their opening game to France. They play the Netherlands tomorrow, and a defeat to the Netherlands could essentially knock England out. It is them, France, Netherlands, and they've got to play Wales as well. And Wales, we've seen it from the men's teams, they love playing England, and I'm sure the women will be up for doing exactly the same thing as the men have tried to do, and try to essentially knock England out of a Euro competition. So it's not I wouldn't say it's a tricky time. England's Lionesses, we've seen them on the pitch, so we know how fantastic they are. And it looked as though they were very, very unlucky to lose on their opening day on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see how they come across the Netherlands and how they look to really front that challenge. If they get anything less than a draw, that could be it for them.
They've got to get their confidence up after this as well, haven't they? They've got to go out fighting. World Cup ticket prices have been slashed. Why?
So this is the Club World Cup, which has been happening over in the US. And we've seen over the past couple of weeks that fan numbers and numbers in the stadium themselves have been rather low. I think the lowest was about 3,000. And that was between the Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa and Ulsan HD of South Korea. Of course, not massive teams by any extent, but you'd expect people to maybe come out and have a look and watch them. But in America, the prices at sporting events in general, not just at football matches, is extortionate. So on the 2nd of July last week, for anyone who was interested in attending Chelsea's semi-final battle with Fluminense from Brazil, would have had to have forked out in pounds £346 for the cheapest standard admission ticket. For context even, that's only marginally more expensive than the cheapest Premier League season ticket at West Ham United for last season. So you can either watch Chelsea for £346 or the entirety of West Ham season.
To go there on holiday, their tourism is down because people don't trust the
forgotten. But it's not just that, it's the fact that there is so much sport on in the States at the moment that people are going to choose what they know. And Club World Cup is a new thing. People over there might not even know what it is. You get locals in Orlando or in New Jersey, for example, might not even know that the Club World Cup is happening. When you've got baseball that's happening, MLB is huge at this time of year. You've just had the hockey finals as well. That ended as the competition was starting. You had the NBA as well, which
you got to question why it was set in America then. I mean,
yeah. You've got
the World Cup next year.
They've got the World Cup next year, which is why they had it. But you've also got the MLS season, which is still running at this point. So you've got two competing competitions, and the Gold Cup, which is the nations in the CONCACAF, which is the North American Football Confederation. They're all playing as well. So you've got three competitions, plus baseball and everything else competing against it. And it's no wonder that people are going, well, I'll just go and watch something else, or I'll just go and do something else, when it's a competition that people don't really have much of an invested interest in because it's completely new.
Yeah, well, then that's a them problem.
Yeah,
isn't
exactly.
it, really? They're not going to make any money this time.
No, I feel like if they'd had it over here, people would go because they'd be like, oh, Kaiser Chiefs are playing Al Hilal or whatever. Oh, I'll go and check out their game. They're playing at Villa Park or whatever. Tickets are dirt cheap. I'll go. Yeah. Whereas there isn't the same amount of interest.
No, there's not that connection, is there? VAR. Now that's been a constant thorn in many football players' side. They don't like it
for a while
much.
At this point.
Yeah, but now Wimbledon, they have gone with an electronic line calling, which it takes out some of the drama. Actually, a lot of people are complaining about it, that you don't get the same feeling of drama when you're courtside. But it's failed, and it's really annoyed some players.
Yeah, so the electric line calling system, which essentially means you've got AI running the lines at this point, which is quite scary. I mean, I would do it if it means I have the words AI written on my back, but I'm not a human umpire at this point. But it was a match between Britain's Sonite Cartel and her opponent, Natasha Pavlyuchenko. When Cartel hit a backhand long on a crucial point, Pavlyuchenko knew it landed out. The umpire did as well, and the TV replays proved it. But the electronic line calling system, which means that humans have been fully replaced for this year following earlier trials, said nothing. It remained silent, and minutes ticked by. The human umpire eventually declared that the point should be replayed. But that time around, Pavlyuchenko lost the point. She went on to win the match, but in that moment she told the umpire that the game had been stolen from her, and she wondered aloud if it was because Cartel was British. It later emerged the reason was a bit more mundane than that, but still a quintessentially human reason, and that is that someone had accidentally switched off the line judge.
No way!
Yeah.
They've unplugged it to put a hairdryer in or something.
Probably. We saw something similar when the Premier League returned in 2020 with the goal line technology being turned off, which meant that Sheffield United were essentially relegated off the back of that, with their fixtures not going in their favour. So it's not the first time that this has happened, and I feel like it's not going to be the last time either.
Well, in broadcasting, we have locking plugs, right? That you can't. Let's talk to them about that. Maybe they could use one of those. Alex, it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Wonderful to see you back. And I'll see you next week. Alex, 3 Lines Irons there, TalkSport producer and presenter. Stay where you are. We're heading off to America for some weird news next.
Across the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And coming up at midnight, Cody Darla will be here to go through the papers for tomorrow, for the front pages anyway. But right now, instead of getting some bad news out of America, we decided to get some weird news. And Ryan Harris, our US journalist and broadcaster, joins me now. Ryan, how are you?
I'm well. Always nice to see you, Petrie. And you know, you picked the weird reporter for the weird news, so it's almost perfect.
We make sure that it's hand in glove on this program. Let's do. I mean, I literally don't even know what to say about this. But a rabbit has thrown out the first pitch at a league baseball game.
Yes, Petrie. Now, you know they call baseball America's pastime, but it's also a sport where there are often gimmicks to entice fans to come out to the ballpark. And the Reno Aces in northern Nevada, just a couple hours away from me, are no exception. Now, part of the tradition of any baseball game is the ceremonial first pitch, usually thrown out by people from all walks of life, only this time it wasn't a person, it was a giant Flemish rabbit. And if you've never seen a giant Flemish, they're huge.
They are
for
massive.
A bunny.
They're bigger than dogs. Yeah.
They I saw certainly. I know they're bigger than the Queen's corgis for sure, but they are still very cute, of course, because they are bunnies. And so it was Harry Potter night at the Aces game. I never read the books, but I saw all the movies, and I don't recall rabbits playing a prominent role, but apparently they are rather significant in the Harry Potter universe. So they brought up the hare named Alex the Great all the way up from the San Francisco Bay Area to throw out the first pitch with the help of a pitching machine. Now, honestly, it looked a little awkward as Alex's owner tried to get him to trigger the mechanism, but eventually the ball was sort of hurled toward the plate and the catcher scooped it up. Now, Alex, the giant Flemish, has an interesting story, starting with his rescue from a meat farm down in Modesto in Central California. You know, I didn't know people were still eating rabbit much here on the West Coast. I know some people like to eat it, but apparently they're farming them here in California. And then he was adopted by a local family after his rescue. When he's not making celebrity appearances like this one, he can frequently, brace yourself, be seen on his Instagram in his rabbit-sized custom Mercedes-Benz cruising around the neighborhood. Alex is also the only certified therapy rabbit in the United States. And I'll quote a line from his story on the minor league baseball page because I really liked it. With his friendly demeanor and 30 pounds of fluff, Alex is always eager to lend an ear to those in need. Now, he's also known for visiting hospitals and charity events, but one of my favorite parts about Alex is that he and I share a love for the San Francisco Giants of Major League Baseball. The only difference is that Alex has appeared on TV from the stands of the Giants games, and I have not. However, I get to be on TV with the lovely and talented Petrie Hosken, so I say take that, Alex.
Yeah, exactly. Or you could just get some bunny ears and see how that goes for you.
Bunny ears and googly eyes. I'm all set.
You're all set. The only relationship I've ever known with rabbits is a friend of mine when I was a schoolgirl. A little girl had rabbits, and they were vicious. Absolutely vicious.
They can be if you, you know, they get very defensive. I think if they don't like you.
Yeah, the back leg kicking and scratching. No, I didn't like. I wasn't a fan. So, but hopefully, the bigger they are, the more gentle they become, perhaps.
Let's hope.
Who knows? Swamp crotch. Am I reading this right?
Petrie, really, honestly, the only reason I picked this story is because I wanted to hear you say the phrase swamp crotch. But I have to give credit where credit is due here. I have a real love for the New York Post, mostly for its flair and fearlessness with its creative writing when it comes to both hard news and the fun stuff. And I've never used it as a source for weird news stories for us until now, but this was a real wealth this time around. And the columnist Asia Grace did not disappoint, especially with her opening line, and you'll love this. It's the ire of flyers who profusely perspire. I thought that was a great line.
That's
so I
a
had
good
to
line.
include
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I might have written something more like "the rain in Spain stays mainly in your pants," but that's that's another story. That's why I'm not writing for the New York Post. And now that that's out of the way, now pretty much all of us know airport security can be a real pain at the very least, especially since the major changes to it that happened after 2001, including those full body scanners that force us to take the awkward pose in order to pass through. In the United States, we have to go like this. In Europe, I notice it's sort of more arms at your sides and sticking out. But we all have to do it. And for some reason, I always smile at them. I don't know why. They're not taking a picture of me. But in order to get through, you have to do that. And those scanners are pretty sensitive and can even detect things in your pockets. Like I was wearing an all plastic belt and they still said I needed to take it off. But according to reports from a number of passengers, they are also set off if you happen to be a little extra sweaty. And that includes sweat, I'll just say, in the more personal areas.
I have
Travelers
never
say,
heard of swamp crotch before, and I don't think I ever want to hear about it again.
Well, this will be the last time, I hope. I can't promise it, but I'll do my very best. Now, the travelers... Yeah, the travelers that have experienced this say it's triggered a pull aside for a more detailed search and pat down. And passengers here in the U.S. say the Transportation Security Administration officers have been very professional about their searches, but certainly for some it would be uncomfortable, potentially embarrassing. Personally, since I follow all the rules and procedures, I'd probably be mildly irritated about the whole thing. But of course, I would play along and probably even tease the agent about not taking me out on a date first. The experts recommend if you tend to sweat more heavily, you might want to find a place where you can dry off a little bit before you get into the line. But I would also say, I'm sort of, spitballing here, maybe avoid the baby powder around your goodies because I feel like that might also set off the scanner if they think it's some sort of, nefarious powder. So just be very careful when you're going through the security.
And I also think when we're talking about swamp crotch, saying spitballing probably wasn't the right thing to say, but I'm going to move. I'm going to move on. That's just the way my mind works, Brian. Let's have a look at, I don't want to lose some of these great stories. Let's start with the woman who rents an underground bunker to live.
Yeah, I really like this story, Petrie, and having paid the exorbitant rents we face here on the West Coast, which can be close to about £1,500 sterling a month for a one-bedroom apartment here in certain parts of California, I can see where Caitlin Johnson had a good idea. The 44-year-old works in the entertainment industry, and when she moved back from California to New York, she had a friend who had recently purchased a house in Bakersfield, which is sort of South Central Valley, California, that included an underground bomb shelter. You don't really see those much anymore, and this one looks relatively new. Doesn't look like it was something built in the 1950s. Now, the new homeowner said she didn't take any care of the bunker, so Caitlin struck a deal with her to pay just $500 or about 367 quid to live in the bunker and take care of it and the yard, and that saves her a significant amount of money each month. Now, what she gets for that $500 is a 1,200 square foot space with a master bedroom with ensuite plumbing, a full kitchen, 18 bunks, another bathroom and shower, and 2 additional toilets. And I kind of had to think this out. The design means as many as 18 people would have to share 4 toilets and either 1 or 2 showers if the bunker was being used at full capacity. So definitely close quarters there when the zombie apocalypse hits. Among the drawbacks of the subterranean living is little or no natural light coming in. Caitlin says she works mostly outdoors and comes home at night when it's already dark. So to her, it's like any other apartment. And in fact, she even said she's had apartments like studio apartments in New York, and New York's expensive to live as well. They were smaller and of lesser quality for more money. So she says she's quite comfortable. She still gets a phone signal and internet down there. To get into the thing, you go through a big hydraulic door that sort of tilts up from the ground, and then through a blast door that really looks like a door to a large safe. She also added an artificial skylight. I've never heard of that before, so I have to do my research. I might get one myself, presumably to help her maintain her sanity. And she decided she likes it so much, she's asked her friend to extend her stay for another year. But one of the questions that came to my, as you know, twisted mind is, what does she say if she has a date? Is it something like, hey, let me know when you're here and I'll come out from my underground dwelling to meet you?
Yeah, no, that would be a bit red flaggy, wouldn't it? It would literally be she's a serial killer. But
yeah.
Great security in New York.
Yeah,
I mean, no one's going to break in there. I like the sound of that. That works for me. I've got to go to this story now. We're running out of time because this is my favourite. The man spends days searching for his wallet. Now, I have a son, and I used to say to him, can you look with your eyes and not your mouth? Because I would have spotted that wallet in 5 seconds. But we're going to show a picture of it now, I think. Have we got that picture, Adam? There it is. And I would have spotted that, but it took him 2 days to find this wallet, and this has gone viral.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first thing it reminded me of is like a Where's Waldo book, because, some relative who was involved in this had to be snarky and post it on Reddit. And some of the people said, oh, yeah, I spotted it right away. And others said, oh, I couldn't find it. But you see in the photo there that it's white with a sort of smattering of black tile.
Diamond shaped, yeah.
Yeah, and the billfold itself, it depends on the angle. From a certain angle, they're a square. So, it's just the way they're laid in there. But the square black billfold just happened to land
perfectly on one of the squares. And we're going to just highlight that, I think, now. But there you go. Ryan, thank you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, Hi there, it is good to have your company. It is Petrie here with you, and with me is the fabulous Cody Darler, comedy writer and podcaster. Hello.
Hello.
Very nice. You're looking very bright and white.
Thank you. This is the crispest white T-shirt I could find. Everything, every other. I have 5 versions of this exact T-shirt,
And they're
every
all a
other
bit
one
yellow
has
and grey.
horrible stains.
Yeah. I don't know how that
happens.
happens. I can't do whites.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Can't do it.
I insist on wearing a white T-shirt, but I probably get 2 wears out of the max. Yeah.
Well, it is tennis season, I suppose.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course, that's what it is.
I keep carrying a racket around with me as well.
Yeah, obviously. Listen, before we get to the papers, prison system here in this country, it's failing everybody, right? It fails the victims, it fails the prisoners, it fails the taxpayer at nearly 50 grand it's just standard prisoner. It's failing everybody. We've got the highest recidivism rate in the known world. The highest. I was shocked by that. I didn't realise it was that bad, right?
Yeah.
America, though, closely behind us with very tough prisons, 55%. At roughly the same sort of time, sort of 5 to 9 years after. We're 78% of reoffending rate.
78%?
It's so high.
Wow.
So failing, right? It fails. So that is another victim. That is more victims that we are gathering each time one of these people gets reconvicted. But then you look at Norway, right? The most gentle form of prison, great rehabilitation, really concentrate on being treating prisoners almost like victims themselves. So you make sure they've got homes to go to and jobs to go to and things like that. Get them off drugs, you get them rehabilitated. 20%. So I want to know what kind of prisons we should have, because there are people who say, well, we should have prisons like they have in America, these big, tough,
sure,
or El Salvador.
Yeah.
We can't get recidivism rates from there because I don't think anybody lives. I don't think anybody gets out of
yeah,
prison.
That's true. They're there for life. Yeah. Recidivism is if they're
it's
like
not a thing,
they're
right?
dead.
Yeah, because they're dead. They don't come out. So, which direction do we go in? Because I can see why treating prisoners like victims themselves and giving them all this support and help would be extremely unpopular. But it creates fewer victims of the future. The system we have at the moment, which is neither Arthur or Martha, we've got 78 recidivism.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on how you perceive like human nature, and it kind of goes part and parcel with what your views of a welfare system are.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone chooses to be a criminal unless you're some kind of psychopath. But I think, most kind of, and this is how it starts in prisons as well, isn't it? It's kind of like begins with petty theft and then moves on to burglary and things like that. And I ascribe to the view that people become trapped within that system of crime, and that it's more a reflection of our lack of social support and our kind of underfunded services, which is completely,
Well, a lot of it is mental health as well. We know mental health.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of people in jails that really should not be in jails because they are mentally unwell or drug
they should be given a. But I think there is a tendency in this country, which again I think is probably taken from America, which is that if you're a wrong-un and you're beyond help, and I think all that does is it kind of writes a person off. And I think with the right support, people can become normal functioning members of society. Because a lot of stuff in prison is drugs, and we've seen over the last few months a lot of kind of prison officers smuggling drugs in for prisoners to use. You're right, the whole system is kind of rotten. But I think at core, I think that all human beings are redeemable, and I think it's unlikely that a person who exists outside of prison in a cycle of theft and drug addiction or even violence would choose to do that. I think there's a way where we maybe could I mean, in fact what you just said is kind of sad, where you're like, we've got evidence and data here to suggest that the way Norway do it is good, but for some reason we can't do it here because it wouldn't get popular support. And I wonder why it wouldn't get popular support, because you'd have one person who maybe falls through the net and is probably should still be in prison, would be splashed all over our tabloids, and then it whips up public anger. So we're kind of reform and progress, I think, in this country, not just in prisons, I believe is held up by the narratives our media spin. It's not data driven, it's emotion driven. And people don't like the idea of someone who's committed a crime having a nice life eventually, at any point in their life.
That is, I think that's the point. I mean, I remember once, years and years ago on another radio station saying, you know, if it's 50 grand a prisoner to house them, would it be acceptable if we was 40 grand a year not to commit a crime, right? I mean, I was playing devil's advocate, right? But in a sense, you've then got no further victims, and you're saving that money from the justice system, not just in prison terms, but you've got the law itself, justice, policing, all of that kind of thing. And of course, I said that just to play devil's advocate, but it was met with a lot of anger. But I can understand that. I did it to be controversial, but that's kind of what we're talking about here, isn't it? Just saying, well, look, if we were kinder to people who don't deserve kindness in our view, and I suppose it would depend on the crime. There are some things that are utterly unforgivable and I believe unredeemable. Paedophilia, for example, that's not something that is ever going to get better. You're not going to improve from that position of hurting children in that way. But other crimes, I think we've got to be more intelligent, haven't we, and look at the criminal and say, why are you the way you are?
Yeah, totally, exactly. I mean, that's how we should. I think that's how we should view lots of things in our society. But your devil's advocate point, I know you're being facetious when you said it, but like, again, that captures, I think, the constraints of the debate, where you're like, actually, on paper, you're like, that makes financial sense. It makes
not just financial sense, but societal sense as well, because they can afford a house to live in.
People don't support it because it's actually not about the money, and it's not about the statistics. It's not about the the reoffending rates, really. And I think it goes down, people think of a family or a victim who has been affected by an individual's actions, and when they see that, how that affects the family and whatever crime it might be, it's like especially when it comes to like murder and things like that, it's unthinkable.
And things like that. It is unthinkable.
That a shattered family would now have to face. I mean, people do. People don't go to prison in this country for their whole lives, really, or rarely. And even now, you'll see in the paper, every week there'll be someone who's committed some horrific crime who's released after 40, 50 years, and it's still this idea that it's not enough. They've not served enough. But like you say, that's kind of, it's almost like a medieval view of justice.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people view justice as revenge,
exactly,
as payback, and there has to be, and punishment. And I also believe there has to be a level of punishment, and there has to be a level of somebody knowing that what their behaviour is not acceptable in a civilised society. So for 7/7, it's 20th anniversary. Anybody who's accused of terrorism offences, for example, then I don't think they can be. No, I don't think that they're redeemable in the sense that they've killed 52 people, or a lot of they blew themselves up. But you know what I mean. There are certain things, and I wonder if we need to restructure it to say there are certain things that are completely unacceptable, and that's prison. For other things to be determined, maybe there's another way, still locking somebody away, but seeing them as redeemable. So, like we have the mental health prisons now, where we go, right, they're not getting out. Right. That is it. We have a different. They're about £130,000 a year each, by the way. But when we look at prisons, maybe it is a case of, instead of saying one size fits all, we go, okay, these people are irredeemable in view of society, not coming back from that, and shouldn't be forgiven for that. But there are other people who are in that cycle of crime that you're talking about.
Yeah, where it's almost an extension of poverty, exactly, where you're like, people become, and you see it so easily, how easy it would be if you're from if you're from poverty, how you can begin nicking a chocolate bar in a shop, and then you I don't know, you get into drugs, and then you start, breaking.
It's also society not wanting you, or society. If you're on the if you're pushed to the outskirts of society, even by your own behaviour, it's very. Where's the social contract? There isn't one.
I think they're the people who have been let down. Let down by a system that has then trapped them. Yeah, just like people are let down, in a system of poverty.
Yeah.
yes, you can absolutely see that pipipeline. And
well, it's
how
like children in care, for example, are
exactly.
just something like 10 times more likely to turn to criminality.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is, I think it's got to be much more nuanced, where we say, okay, look, this system, clearly it is absolutely failing. There's just no other way of looking at this, right? One of the highest recidivism rates in the world, 78% reoffences in 9 years. I mean, come on, what's the point?
But you see, I'm sure there are some people out there who, probably quite a lot actually, that, you know, if let's say it's the theft thing, that there will be people, again, this when it comes back to it's not down to the money or the cost or anything, people will be like, if you go to prison for nicking a car and then you serve 2 years, I don't know what it would be, but you serve your time, you come out, you nick another car. There are people who be like, throw away the key. That's, you've done it a second time now. There's no. It gets worse the more people
in America,
reoffend.
they have 3 strikes, don't they? Whatever those strikes are.
Yeah, I think one of the strikes is being born a black person in America, isn't it?
That's definitely. Yeah. I think that's all 3 strikes.
Yeah,
actually. Possibly.
Now that truly is medieval.
Yeah.
Their system.
Yeah.
It's
it really is. But like you said, a lot of people will want it to be all punishment.
Right.
But then if you look at like I said, if you look at the numbers and you just kind of cast around for, if it was working, great. You know, we'd all be going, well, look, I don't like it, but it works. We've got a 0% recidivism rate or 20% recidivism, but it's 78%. It's the worst. It's worse than pretty much anywhere else.
But actually, online, there are quite a few people who, former prisoners they'll stand. I think there's one person in particular I'm thinking of. He'll stand outside of prison and he'll watch and he'll interview the people as they immediately come out of the gate as they've been released. And, you know, often he'll be like, where are you off to? And they're like, I don't know. I think that's the problem. You know, a lot of people, there's this idea that it's like, oh, prisons is full of PlayStations and it's lovely, it's really comfortable. And it's not, I don't think that's the case. It's that, you know, genuinely a lot of prisoners coming out of the prison don't have a home. They become homeless, and that's also how you can see how easy it is to reoffend.
And with a lot of them as well, a condition of bail or a condition of coming out on tag will be that you don't go back to your old neighbourhood.
Yeah.
So where do you go? So then you have hostels which are housing all sorts of people who have been criminals of all sorts of things in one building, and you're miles away from your family or you're miles away from your friend. Now I can understand with drugs and things you shouldn't be back in that environment, but then who are you and what are you and what do you do all day? You know, I do think that we make it particularly difficult for people to turn their lives around if they're you know, if somebody says, look, I want to turn my life around, what do we do for them?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of that, it relies on family, doesn't it? If they've got a strong family, then it's probably, you know, likely, but again,
well, then they can go back to and live with the family, but if they don't have that,
exactly, like I say, it's a product of their economic system as well,
and particularly with drug addicts and alcoholics, their families will have had enough. They'll have washed their hands of them by now, because being a relative of an addict is incredibly difficult. Being one myself, I know it is. You don't like them very much. You still love them, but you don't like them very much. And if you allow them to stay in your life, they start to poison everything else in your life. So then that's a double whammy then for an addict, because they've poisoned everything and everyone around them, and they're not welcome back. So you've got a situation there where they need support.
And I'm sure they'll be probably trapped out of any system of help as well, because they're an offender. It will be far more difficult for them to gain access to help, again, because they're sort of, it's on their paperwork, they're written off, they're not deserving.
And it's such an interesting one, this, for me, because I do sort of veer, you know, certain crimes, I just think, now that is, sorry, no, you've overstepped a line now, I can't, society's not going to welcome you back. And other people, perhaps we need to just think of a different way, just a thought.
Or trial a different way that we already know is working.
Maybe. Who knows? But it won't, I tell you what, it would go down like a bucket of sick. Cold
Daily
sick.
Mail effect.
Yeah, Daily Mail effect. Right, let's turn to newspaper, and I have to applaud my producer today for going to the Omaha World Herald, that well-known newspaper. This is our American paper, of course, just to look at what's going on. The death toll in Texas since this paper was written, it's now up to 104 people that have died in these flash floods. Absolutely horrific flooding here. And I was saying in the newsroom that the waters went in 2 hours rose 26 feet.
Yeah, I know, incredible.
I mean, that's about 4 or 5 times the height of this studio, because it's quite low.
You can't even imagine that. The BBC have just run a graphics article, and it shows you.
I mean, that's like a tidal wave. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a wall of water coming at you. Lots of arguments as to who was warned. Apparently warnings went out at 1:23, and the flooding, certainly at this camp where the little girls were, it didn't happen until I think 6 o'clock or something like that. They had time to get them out, but they didn't, and that's because they thought it wasn't going to be as bad as it was, and there's all sorts of buck passing going on at the moment. But I was saying earlier, there's got to be, I mean, correlation to Doge laying off 600 people from the weather.
Is that right?
600 people from the
if only there were
oceanic organisations and from the National Weather Centre.
Oh wow! Is this could we get Musk on corporate manslaughter? Do you think?
Well, Musk is busy setting up his own
political party, the America Party.
That's going to be interesting, you know, because that will divide the Republican vote. It won't touch the Democrat vote.
Yes, it's about. I mean, it's about funding, isn't it? Because obviously in America, the primary system is if you don't toe the party line, you're not going to get funding. Whereas if Musk can ply them with money, then I guess it becomes too hot.
Well, he either plies. I mean, this is what all the primaries is, isn't it? They're going to be primaried is a threat. Yeah. So what this means is that Donald Trump is saying to a Republican who won't toe the party line, I'll primary you, which means putting somebody else up against that Republican with all the money, so that Republican would win and the Republican that's been naughty would lose his or her seat. So that's what this threat means, just to those of you who don't know this. But if Musk starts, let's say, the X Party, the America X Party, he's going to have all the money to throw at all of these people. He's not going to bother primarying the Democrats if he's got his own party.
No, it's true. Yeah, that could be interesting. I mean, Trump has a tendency for blaming natural disasters on people, doesn't he? Politicising them. He did it with Gavin Newsom in LA.
Oh yeah, the LA fires. That was. But they're now saying, it's not the time to talk politics.
I see now. It's the time not to talk politics.
We're not allowed to talk politics about this. Although immediately those fires were taking place, it was always Gavin New Scum. They call it
New Scum, something to do with the environmental policies around a rare fish or something in the rivers. Yeah,
but it also the FEMA, which is the Federal Emergency Fund. Trump is getting rid of that after the hurricane season, and still hasn't paid out more than $136 million to California. Gavin Newsom is still waiting for $40 billion to help with the fires, but because it's a blue state and Trump hates him, unlikely that he'll get the money. But I hope that these people get the help and the money that they need to rebuild, because it's going to take months. The water table is undrinkable now. Nobody can drink the water. There's no electricity. All of those things, all of those disasters happening as well around the floods.
Well, I guess the only thing they have going for them is that they're a red state. Therefore, they may well get
some money.
They need.
Yes, they will, actually, I would imagine, because it's Ted Cruz, isn't it? So Cruz is a mate of Trump's anyway. This is my favourite story here on the Omaha World Herald, and if I wasn't adverse to going to America, I might go here. Expect more pooches at a restaurant near you. New guidance allows pet dogs on outdoor patios of food establishments.
This is the most specific Omaha story I think
really is,
you could probably get today.
Yeah.
If there's any listeners in Omaha, this is great news for you.
This is
if you
great
also have a
news.
dog.
Yeah. Guidance allows pet dogs in outdoor patios of bars, restaurants and other food-serving establishments as long as they meet certain health and safety standards.
They eat with a knife and fork.
Yeah, they eat with a knife and fork. They don't
Wear a bib.
spit. Don't
They're not
lick
rude to the
anyone.
waiters.
Yeah, it's really cute, but it's only outside. I mean,
Yeah.
I already go to places where the dogs are allowed inside.
I mean, I think if there's the one thing that the UK is good for is I think it's pets inside.
Yeah.
I think it's pets inside.
It is. It's brilliant. And
I
there's a
think that's-
cinema as well in Notting Hill. There's a dog day as well.
Of
You can
course.
take
Well,
your
that's
dog to
actually
the
exactly what I was going to say because poshos love dogs. That's why a lot of dog-friendly stuff in the UK.
Oh, is
Because there's
that
all the big posh aristocrats with their big Irish wolfhounds.
What about me with 2 Shih Tzus?
And of course you, Petrie, with 2
that's
Shih
not
Tzus.
posh though. Shih Tzus are anything but posh. I
Do you
mean,
have to buy
even
them
the
a
name.
ticket when you go to the cinema?
No,
No,
I
nice.
don't. Although I
Shih Tzus
wouldn't
go free.
I wouldn't take Humphrey at the moment. He's far too naughty. He's far too naughty. Right, quick break. I'm back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, and with me is Cody Dollar, who's a comedy writer and podcaster. And I noticed your babysitting thing that you do on TikTok. Mark Rutter's there.
Rutter's been added, yeah.
For calling Donny Daddy.
Yeah, Donald Daddy. That's all it takes to gain entry into the Billionaire Babysitter Club, is you've got to call Donald Trump Daddy.
Ugh, it makes me, ugh.
There was, I loved the reaction to that, where it was literally divided the world, where some people were like, very clever, very good, Mark,
Yeah, I like
and then
that.
everyone else vomited in their mouth.
Yeah, because of the
Yeah, of
daddy
course.
thing. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. Go find him on Mr. Cody Dollar on TikTok. Right, Financial Times. Taco. I've got to say it. It's got to be said.
Yeah.
Trump was going on and on and on and on and on about how this week he was sending out letters about these tariffs, and he was going to put 70% tariffs on people. He's now granted another 3-week reprieve. And a lot of people inside the White House are saying that he's just gaming now. He's just doing it for reaction.
Interesting.
Because it's maddening.
I mean, he's not. It's
A 3-week reprieve now on return of reciprocal trade, because nobody's talking to him. He's saying that everybody's doing deals with him, and they're not.
Oh, people have just decided to rewrite the economic order.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you don't think this is actually, it turns out it's quite complicated to run a tariff policy. It's not that. It's just that people aren't interested in trusting it.
Well, I think a lot of people, the markets, don't like it.
Yeah.
Look, tariffs work if they're used properly.
Strategically.
They don't work in this sort of blanket fashion that Trump has been applying. Eventually, I just wonder if he would just become the little boy who cried wolf. You know, because the markets already are calling him Taco. Trump always chickens out. Because he does.
He does. He loved that, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
The Wall Street traders are calling you Taco.
Taco.
What is that?
Chicken? Chicken?
Yeah, well, he said today that he will add 10% more tariffs to people who haven't tried to talk to him. I think people who who don't want a deal.
But what happened to him? Remember when he was going, oh, they're all phoning me up going, please, sir, can you kiss my... You know, he was doing all that. Oh, sir, give me a deal. Clearly a lie.
Yeah.
An embarrassing lie.
It's unusual for him, it must be said. He normally doesn't lie at all.
No, that's true. OK, well, there we go, because there's another reprieve of these so-called tariffs. We'll see what happens. He might change his mind tomorrow.
Yeah. At what point, if you are a business, do you stop? Do you just stop worrying?
I think the whole world is like you said. We're just rewriting trade routes now.
Yeah.
He's even wanting to introduce extra tariffs to people who get involved with the BRIC economies.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like you can't force people to deal with the US if we don't want to. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, this would be the ultimate. If I would, big applause for everyone else in the world if we did just ignore him
for now. Yeah,
please,
please don't
ignore
pander
him.
to him and ignore it, and just see what happens next. Because if we rewrite the trade routes, and they're already happening now naturally, they're going to be left out in the cold, and it really will be America first and only.
Oh. What a shame that would be.
Well, it would be a shame for the decent Americans that are forced to live there.
The Omaha folk who take their dogs to the restaurants.
To take their dogs to restaurants.
Fine, fair enough.
Thank you, people in Omaha. Reform has loosened its vetting criteria for candidates.
Despite one of them resigning because he got a couple of dodgy COVID contracts.
Yeah.
Who handed himself over.
He did hand himself over.
I think that's the real reason he's no longer in Reform. You can't be behaving behaving honourably in Reform.
Can't have integrity.
No.
But he, so they've loosened its vetting criteria. This is going to come back and bite them, isn't it?
Well, I think it already has. There was a story over the weekend about how there's multiple councils that there are teenagers. There are teenagers running councils. So the interim leader of Warwickshire County Council is 18 years old.
Oh, I saw your skit on that. It was very good.
And then there's another, I think, Leicestershire County Council.
18-year-old
It's
councillor.
crazy. One of them is head of family and children's services. He's 19. This is in Leicestershire, I think. He's at uni. And another one is in charge of adult social care at Leicestershire County as well, County Council, who doesn't believe in depression. So I actually think this is a reform story that is less serious, because this relies on them winning at the next election. Yes, yeah. I mean, well, Farage is trying to distance himself because, so what's provoked this is a Reform UK MP has now resigned the whip because he's been doing dodgy dealing, and Farage has said, oh, well, this isn't my fault because actually when candidates were selected, I wasn't the leader, it was Richard Tice. And so in the same breath, he's now saying, we'll loosen them up, though. Maybe if you go so far down the crooked route...
Yeah, maybe you need to tighten them up.
You become good.
Yeah.
This maybe goes back to your justice question at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is it possible to be so bad? What's the rate of recidivism amongst Reform UK MPs?
I guess we'll find out. Let's have a look at the Daily Mirror now. But again, no surprise on this story either. Trump team closes the file on Epstein. Victims furious. Epstein probe is shut down. Prince Andrew will face no charges over his links to Jeffrey Epstein after the FBI ended its probe, and they've said that it was definitely suicide and he never had a client list, even though we know he had a client list.
What's going on there?
Well, the FBI being run by Trump stooge Patel. I can't imagine.
Interesting. Do you think is this isn't more? No one's been sacked from the FBI. That's not Elon. Elon's not sacked them.
No, but they were all the heads of. Actually, there were some people removed from the head of the FBI and replaced with Trump loyalists. But this. They must think that we're stupid.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say on this.
So
there's no way.
Do you think this is carefully timed because Elon Musk has been saying that Donald Trump is on the list?
Possibly.
So now the FBI is saying there's no.
He'd have to come with he'd have to come with receipts, wouldn't he? Now.
Yeah, no, which I think Donald Trump is famous for not keeping.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just interesting that after Musk has said what he said about Trump being in the files, they still haven't been released, although they were promised to be released, and now they've closed the file. There'll be no more investigations.
So this is the file that Trump campaigned on and said, I'm going to release.
Yeah,
and they've now shut it down.
What they've done now is they've closed any further inquiries into the Epstein situation.
Right.
So the FBI will no longer be trying to track down the client list or doing any investigations into what happened on Pedo Island or whatever it was called, and on the Epstein flights and all of that. There will be no more investigations.
So it's all coming up Prince Andrew.
Yeah. Prince Andrew must be
That's
happy.
unusual for royals to land on their feet, isn't it?
Prince Andrew no longer under investigation after FBI review. So the review says nothing to see here. Yeah, I'm sure, that's true. I'm sure that is true.
So if only he'd waited. So he did that car crash interview and paid off Virginia Giuffre.
Well, his mum paid.
His mum paid.
God.
Yeah, his rich mummy.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and Cody and I'll be back in just a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me is Cody Darla, comedian and podcaster and TikToker. And the Times, let's have a look at the Times. Let's PM. We've got a royal state visit tomorrow, haven't we?
With Macron.
Yeah.
Yes.
I should say on Tuesday we've got the state
Official,
visit with
yeah.
with Monsieur Macron. Sir Keir Starmer will urge President Macron to agree to a one-in, one-out migrant returns deal amid warnings that announcing it before it's ready will lead to a surge in crossings. Just don't read the Times. Just don't let them have the Times. However, I was reading earlier on today that the EU is getting ready to scupper that.
Yes, they are. There are 5 Mediterranean countries in the EU who are worried that if the UK and France come up with a deal, then they're going to have a bigger problem. But I mean, urging is the bread and butter of this government. They love urging.
They love it.
They don't love doing.
No.
They love an urge.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone's got anything to worry about. I think Macron's probably immune to an urge.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he is sleeping at Windsor Castle.
He is.
He's got a nice little bed and breakfast there.
Yeah. Do you think that counts as an urge?
That's probably
a kind of physical urge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's getting his state visit just prior to Donald Trump getting his state visit, and we think in September.
September, possibly, yeah.
But Macron is being allowed to speak in the Commons. He'll do it from the public balcony, I believe.
Oh,
he can't do it from the floor.
Yeah.
For protocol reasons, but he will speak to the Parliament, and of course Zelensky was afforded that as well.
Yes.
The opportunity to speak to
Has Donald not been?
No,
he
last
has
time he was not invited to do that. I haven't seen the details of this state visit. I very much doubt it. I very much doubt it.
Although Keir could start urging, and therefore we can be pretty confident he won't be.
Yeah, he won't be there.
But the detail about the if the information on this front page of a major British newspaper gets out. Yeah. That they're thinking about closing down this route. The idea that these people smugglers have sails is incredibly disturbing.
Yeah.
Not sails as in boat sails.
No, not as in boat sails, but they do have sails.
A summer sail. Last year, a couple of years ago now, this article says when the Rwanda policy was announced, the Albanian people smugglers announced a literal summer sail with a £1,500 reduction to get across the channel. So it's. I mean, it's a proper industry, isn't it? It's kind of
terrible.
It's genuinely awful. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's basically Keir Starmer is pushing for a 1 in, 1 out, which would mean for every migrant that crosses the Channel, they would be sent back and replaced, is my understanding, with an asylum seeker who has a connection to Britain. So I'm not sure. A cursory look at the story, it's not clear to me how any numbers would come down.
No. No. It may just alter the
demographic
of the people coming over. I don't know. It's a mess, isn't it? But obviously smashing the gangs hasn't worked.
No, you could try urging them.
You could try urging them.
Urging them to stop.
Yeah. God, he's so weak, isn't he?
It's not looking good.
It's not looking
Although,
good.
I spoke about this on my podcast where I was like, it's not great. It doesn't look great. But, I mean, the way the press goes after a Labour government in this country, I don't remember these long-winded articles talking about how crap the Tories were one year in. They've not been great, but...
unless you look at the Mirror, they will...
Yeah, well, the Mirror, yeah, it's true, the Mirror. But, I mean, it's blanket negativity. And I mean...
I think so too. I mean, look, I think that this Labour government have been horrendous. I do think that they've been... But I just think they've just been so weak. And any good that they have done has been overshadowed by just being just so pathetic.
Yeah.
And I can see why people are angry with them. But, I don't know. Risk of holiday travel chaos as airports lift liquid restrictions. What's this? Airports have begun quietly lifting the 100 ml restriction on liquids in hand luggage, risking confusion. Really?
I think it's different across all airports, I think, is what the story is. So apparently Edinburgh, I don't want to mislead anyone if they're travelling tomorrow. Edinburgh and Birmingham, you can take 2 litres of liquid, but it's not quite clear.
So as in shampoo or what?
I think
Perfume.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know what a liquid is. I guess 2 litres of shampoo, maybe, if you wanted to.
I think that's really dirty.
I don't know how long you're going for.
You'll never get through that. You wouldn't get through that in 20 years.
No, for the rest of my life, no. But yeah, I think it's different because basically airports are meant to have these new fancy CT scanners or whatever they're called, and some have them now and some don't. But basically, the confusion lies in it being airport specific.
That will never go wrong.
No.
Right, let's have a look at the Metro. This is there's a fabulous story, but we can't... there are legal reasons, Cody.
Really?
Yeah, because this is potentially watchable and listenable in Australia, I'm not joking,
how exciting.
There are legal reasons why we can't read the first paragraph, or in fact any of that.
No.
Yeah, and I'll explain it to you in the break.
Can we read the recipe that was made?
No. But this is about this Erin Patterson, who...
how are you going to get through this?
No, we can say murder because she did. She was found guilty of murdering 3 members of her estranged husband's family and attempting to murder the 4th member of her estranged husband's family. What we can't speak to, even though she's been found guilty, and I don't... it's probably the nuances of Australian law, as to the story that the estranged husband had to tell about her.
I see.
Yeah. So you can read it on the front page of the Metro, though, providing you don't phone any Aussies. Yeah. And I don't know, it's a weird rule, but I read that earlier on, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to get Ofcomed, so I'm not going to mention it.
But one thing you can say is that he's probably not a fun guy. Fun guy.
That's very good.
Thank you. It's my living. It's a mushroom-themed story.
Is that why you're broke?
That's why I'm absolutely broke. That's why I'm here. I don't leave this building until I get my £30.
Yeah, what's that line? My face is my fortune, which is why I'm permanently broke.
Something like that.
The Guardian for Tuesday. Bosses face ban on non-disclosure deals that silence victims of abuse. But then you just get them to sign another disclosure that the bosses banned it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
A non-disclosure for the non-disclosure.
Yes, or you just get the FBI to investigate it for
then
6
shut it
years
down.
and then shut it down.
Yeah, yeah.
Or be a royal.
Yeah. Have you ever signed an NDA for anything?
I think I once went into Facebook, and you have to sign an NDA on the spot.
Do you?
Yeah, yeah. And then they clobber you over the head with a baseball bat.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I think that's the only time. But anyway, sorry. Even if I had, I wouldn't tell you. I can't tell you.
Yeah, you can't say.
I can't disclose
You've just
Oh
blown
God!
it now. You're going to be
Oh
sued.
yeah, it's true. Oh my God, actually, I hadn't thought about that. I retract that. That never happened.
I've signed so many I can't remember what they were for,
Okay, fair enough.
which is really bad.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember whether I should disclose something or not.
Well, in which case, you're the perfect target for a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, because I can't remember.
Yeah. Well,
no,
you
but
don't
then
need
I
to
tell
sign them.
everybody everything. Oh, it's only for some, dodgy work that I've done on the side.
Oh, fine, dodgy work.
Not
No
for
worries, then.
journalism. I would never do that.
Okay,
I
fine.
would never compromise my
Non-journalistic
journalism.
dodgy work. Gotcha.
Non-journalistic
Yeah.
dodgy work.
It's your
Corporate
side
work.
hustle as a
My
tax haven.
Yeah, my side hustle, just doing corporate stuff. So
Okay.
that's different. It's
Very
nothing
vague.
to do with
Very vague.
proposal at the bottom here to force Gaza population into a camp. Now, this is not going to go down well, considering that the last time this happened, many people are still in those camps. So this is very worrying. 600,000 people. Israeli forces would control the perimeter of a site and initially move 600,000 Palestinians into a different area, which is ethnic cleansing.
Concentration camp?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, humanitarian city is what the Israelis are calling it. Yeah, I mean, it's beyond despicable, isn't it? I think everyone has been
The
seeing...
Palestinians should leave Gaza to clean out the strip. I mean, this is the language. Language is just disgraceful.
Yeah, the ease at
And
which
they don't wanna
they
go.
move towards it
Yeah.
is,
That's the
is
problem.
horrifying.
Absolutely horrifying.
Being able to say something like
And
humanitarian
actually,
city.
the Israelis, I would have thought, should have known better.
I think of any nation on the planet that should know better. It's
Putting
obviously.
people into camps
Yeah.
is potentially not a good thing.
Yeah.
The Daily Mail. Let's just have a look at that. The mushroom murderer. The definitive.
Can you say that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
She was found guilty. We know that.
Okay.
We just can't tell his story.
Oh, I see.
It's his, because he has a particular story.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wasn't allowed to say that in court.
Okay.
Because it would have prejudiced the case.
Yeah.
And even now, the Australian people are not being told his story.
So you're telling me the whole
they'll
nation of
find it. Yeah, but
Australia?
look, Ofcom is so weird because people will find it online anyway, right? I mean, it's
Oh my God.
But
We could
can't
dangle
talk
a
about
secret in front of the nation of Australia.
We just
I know
have.
what the story is. You
Yeah.
know what the story is.
Yeah.
Australians are going to be going crazy.
They
Imagine
can-
not knowing what the story is and
I
listening to
know.
this and not
I
being
know.
able to find it.
I know, and I reckon that it will come out probably after sentencing. I don't know whether it's because of that, but
Yeah.
it's odd, very specific. Because after a guilty verdict, normally everything's home and hose. You can
Yeah.
say anything and do anything. I love it when a trial has ended because suddenly the gag
all
has
the
been
juicy
lifted,
bits.
so I can say all
Yeah.
the juicy bits.
All the NDAs.
But yeah, can't at this stage.
Well, just to say to any Australians listening, it's one of the greatest stories I've
It's
ever heard in my life.
incredible.
It's so good.
It's so
I cannot wait for the 3-day Netflix special that will be released.
I'm telling you, it's coming out.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's already made.
Yeah.
It's
What
gotta
a
be
story.
made.
What a story.
Incredible story.
Really. But there you go. Quick break and back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me is Cody Darla, who comedy writer and podcaster, and the Daily Telegraph. No borders between us, King to tell Macron. Plea for cooperation comes as Starmer fights to save migrant returns deal. You'd think a French president of all people would not be impressed by a king.
Yeah. Wrong person to muscle in here, I think.
Really,
Wrong
given
person.
the revolution and all of that, I just don't know whether a king is going to cut it.
Maybe that's why Charles is being so nice, though.
Well,
It's
Charles,
like there's no
Charles would
borders.
work on Trump.
Yeah, well, Trump loves Charles.
Yeah.
They're good friends. They're
Yeah.
old friends.
Really close.
Really close.
Buddies.
Yeah. Probably,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Trump... Was Trump wealthier? You never know how wealthy Trump really is.
Well, I think he is
because it's like-
now, because he's made all this money off his coin that
off of
can't
his,
be
like, meme
traded
coins
can't
and
be
things like that.
sold and can't be done anything with. But
Yeah.
and there's a lot of deals he's got to build Trump towers in Qatar and Saudi Arabia
And Gaza, maybe.
Gaza, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, so a plea for cooperation, I mean, a begging plea, I would imagine that would be. I don't know how well that will go down. And anyway, like we said, the EU is likely to block any one in, one out deal that is done.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how... I don't really know how France is even talking to the UK. If it is... Because like you say, I mean, the whole idea of sort of free movement is...
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's leaving. I don't know.
I don't know. But I suppose there's two nuclear powers, the only two nuclear powers this side of the world.
Yeah, that's true. We can always nuke Germany if they get a bit too...
We need to at least be talking to each other, I guess.
Yeah.
Trump targets Putin with a new round of tariffs. Well, he didn't get tariffs last time. He was one of the only countries that didn't get tariffs. It was North Korea and Russia.
Yes. I mean, I think weren't people saying that that's because there were already sanctions, that it wasn't worth highlighting. But yeah, I mean, it's stinky. It's definitely stinky. But now he's getting tariffs.
Yeah.
About time.
Yeah, and there's talks as well. He was saying the US president escalated his global trade war yesterday when he said the countries seeking closer ties with the anti-American group, the BRICS nation. It's like the EU is anti-American, everything is anti-American.
Certainly is now.
Which, would face extra tariffs of 10%. Mr. Trump also unleashed a fresh wave of levies on 7 countries, including Kazakhstan, which is Russia's 4th largest export partner. However, we now believe that they've been put on hold for 3 weeks.
Yeah, just while we work out what a tariff is.
No. Cutting cash ISAs will kill growth, building societies tell Reeves. She wants to cut the cash ISA allowance in order to fill another black hole of finances. But Neil Kinnock suggesting taxing the rich. They say absolutely not.
Absolutely
Labour
not.
said
Because,
absolutely not.
No. Well, actually, there's something in the FT, I think, where they said they may think about it. I mean, if the last few U-turns have taught us anything, is that whatever Labour say, I don't know, they might change their mind.
I mean, it's like taco, but the British version, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, what would the British version of a taco
What is
be?
it?
It's gone.
Starmer always.
Yeah.
Sacco.
Sacco. Lots of people calling for his Sacco.
Or even better, caco.
Oh, caco.
Caco.
He's full of caco.
Yeah, he's full of caco.
Yeah.
Kia always chicken dinner.
Caco.
I think we'll go for caco.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens or doesn't happen. It's just getting really like blancmange, isn't it?
Yeah.
This spat, though, between Musk and Trump, where do you think this is going to end up? Because if we look on the front page of the Daily Star, there's a little picture there of Musk looking a little bit porky, actually. But
he does.
Yeah. Buddies, the first buddy he was known as.
Yeah.
And now...
Or the First Lady Alonia, I think was also an internet meme.
Yeah.
But yeah, now the worst of enemies. But I think everyone...
Where's it going to end, though? What are they going to do to each other? Is it going to get worse?
I mean, there was something about Tesla stocks plummeting again because Elon Musk is trying to muscle into politics again. I mean, I don't know. I would be really surprised if Elon Musk is in a position to challenge Republicans in every primary. I would imagine what will happen is there will be some kind of performative primary where if the spat still goes on, that Musk will fund a rival candidate, whatever.
But Trump is looking at possible ways of having him deported.
Having him deported. Send him off to where to Ecuador.
Ecuador.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, that shouldn't Donald Trump self-deport?
He should self-deport half his family, I think, on the basis of...
but also
them being
him
American.
himself and definitely his wife.
Yeah. Yeah, why would Trump... Is Trump not American?
No, because he's a felon, and he's saying
yes,
that anybody who's got naturalisation or an American citizenship but commits a crime could therefore lose their status and then be deported.
Yes.
But that would... And he was asked that question. I saw this. Oh, my God. This very brave reporter said, you know, doesn't that include you, Mr. President, because you've got 34 alleged, it's not alleged, it's true, felonies. And he lost his absolute mind. And he literally, that's a rude question. How dare you? Don't you disrespect me? How dare you ask that question?
That's a rude question.
But I admire that probably missing reporter.
Yes, I know that.
For saying
they're definitely on a plane to Ecuador.
I mean, you'd have to be very brave to do that to Trump. The Daily Star also, new drunk patch will tell you when to stop. This is, they're saying it's the hangover cured. Boffs have come up with a wearable drunk patch which sends a stop drinking phone alert. Would you wear that? Do you drink?
I do drink.
Do you get drunk?
I love it. I'm drunk now.
Oh, brilliant.
But this what? I can't believe any.
Well, it would work because it's a sweat. It would read your sweat.
Yes, but anyone who's had a drink, the point is you do not listen. You can't. No, I'm not gonna. I won't listen to a person telling me to stop. I'm not going to listen to a patch telling me to stop. Stupid patch. It's not even got conscience. It's not even got a sentience.
Well, yeah, but some people might want to stop.
Those people who will listen to a patch don't have a problem drinking. They're the sort of people they can have a small Pinot Grigio, and then they can listen to their patch if they want to.
I'm a 3. If I get to my 3rd drink, I'm done. That's me. No,
Really?
I mean I go on.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't mean I finish.
You don't stop.
No. I am finished.
Yeah.
If I stop before the 3rd drink, I'm all right.
Then you're okay.
Then I'm okay. I will stop. But anything after that, it's like, way the lads.
Yeah. Would you, Mom the lads?
Yeah.
Would you listen to a patch?
Absolutely not.
No one would.
No.
I think I can imagine what's going to happen with this is that there'll be just loads of people that will buy the patch and they'll see how many drinks they can have before it's activated. That's all it's going to encourage more drinking, is what it will do.
Or those virtue signallers.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh gosh, no, I mustn't.
Yeah.
I really
If I wear 15 patches, does that mean I can have 15 drinks?
The Daily Express takes a look at the hypocrisy, it says, of Labour's homes plan. Plans to sweep aside blockers and build 1.5 million new homes have been branded hypocrisy on stilts after ministers previously opposed developments in their own areas.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
NIMBYs.
Yeah. The country's full of NIMBYs. I mean, I kind of get it. I mean, no minister or no MP wants a big housing project, but I mean, I imagine this was before they got into government. And now they're being told to shush. As long as that is the case, if they're...
Yeah, but it's the double standards, isn't it? For they're backing this and that. Yes, we'll build 1.5 million affordable homes, which they have to stop using that term because it means nothing.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And it's either
affordable
social
to
housing.
People who are rich.
Yeah. Social housing is the only affordable housing. That if they said social housing, fine, but they're saying affordable housing, like people can really afford £400,000, £300,000 for a house or a 1-bedroom flat. It's nonsense. People can't afford that sort of money. But anyway, there you go. So it's one rule for them and surprisingly.
Yeah, unsurprising for the political class.
Yeah. The Sun newspaper, Air Miles Andy cleared for takeoff. Free to fly. Prince Andrew can end his self-imposed travel ban and return to being Air Miles Andy after leaked memo revealed the FBI is closing its investigation into the Epstein links.
Yep.
He hunkered down. So he won't be arrested when he goes to America, basically.
No. He's off to Lanzarote for the summer.
Yeah, that's right.
He's got a fishbowl. He's ready to party.
So he can now fly into America without being arrested, because that was the threat, wasn't it?
That was his worry.
Yeah.
I think that was his worry. So there's something, I think it's in this article, they say he's not left his house in 6 years. He's not left the country in 6 years. He's been holed up in his house.
Yeah, which is a real shame, because he spends summer in the West Wing and winter in the East Wing. And
you never have to leave your house if it's got multiple wings.
And then go into the grounds where the lakes are and the swimming and the horses. And
yeah.
Must be hell on earth for him.
But now he can go back to America.
Now he can go back to America, but his mate Epstein isn't there anymore.
Yeah, that's true. What reason has he got to go?
Well, I'm sure he'll find one. I don't know. I don't think we'll be seeing Air Miles Andy anytime soon. I think he's in. Charles doesn't even like him, does he? He's in total.
No,
disgrace.
I mean he's the only person after Liz Truss who should be dead just on account of embarrassment.
Just embarrassment
so
alone. It's so embarrassing.
I mean, maybe Liz Truss is only going because the levels of embarrassment in her body will not allow her organs to fail. Yeah. I don't know. It's just
that's what it is.
Yeah.
It must be.
She's running on embarrassment.
Cody, thank you. It's wonderful to see you,
Thank
I'll
you.
see you very soon. Cody Darla there, comedy writer and podcaster. Right, coming up, it's just you and me. And the phone in, and I want to talk to you about what kind of prison system do you think that we should have in this country? The one that we've got currently is failing. It's not doing it for anyone. There are more and more victims because the recidivism rate is one of the highest in the world. We've got a situation where the prison sentences are not working. They seem to be too long or too short or broken up. And they cost 50 grand a year each. So it doesn't work for us either. It doesn't work for the prisoners. They are still losing and they are still falling through the cracks. So what kind of prison system do you think actually would work? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. It is good to have your company. It's Petrie here with you for the next hour, and this hour is the phone-in. It is a full hour of me taking your calls, and it's the only one still going on this station of a full hour of your calls. So please do pick up the phone and join in the conversation. What I want to ask you about this morning is what we can do about our prisons. Our prison system is, well, I mean, to say it's failing is a complete understatement. There's a report coming out today talking about the level of drugs now in our prisons is absolutely chaotic. There are so many drugs in prisons now, and prison and gangs making so much money out of drugs that it is hard to think that our prison system is anything but a complete and utter failure. And when you look at the recidivism rate, that is the reoffending rates from around the world, we are the worst of those that I have in front of me here. We are the worst. Our reoffending rate is 78%. 78% of prisoners or of criminals that are prisoned in this country will reoffend by the 9-year mark. Just think about that. It is the highest rate of all of the prisons that are by country that are broken down, that I have in front of me here, pages and pages and pages. Even America, which has one of the biggest prison populations in the world, I think second only to El Salvador, their recidivism rate is at 55%. So it's still really high. They still reoffend. When you look at other countries, though, Norway, the recidivism rate is around 20%. And you look at the different prison systems that we have, and people think that our prison system, probably that, look, it's so soft that people will reoffend to go back to prison. But then you have a system in Norway where prisoners are treated more like victims, if you like. They are nurtured, they are helped get off drugs, they're not given drugs while they're in jail. They're helped to get clean, they're helped to get educated, they're helped to get rehabilitated. When they leave jail, they get accommodation, they get help with getting work. Their reoffending rate is at 20%. So ours is just rubbish, just on every level. It's not tough enough to see a 55% rate like they have in America. And it's not soft enough to see a recidivism rate of 20% like they have in Norway. It's just a mess. I mean, Canada has a re-imprisonment rate, they call it, after 2 years in Quebec of 43% to 55%. Chile, 39 to 50%. Denmark, 51 to 63%. Other countries, France, 26% to 61%. Whatever we're doing in terms of dealing with criminals in this country is an abject embarrassment. It is a failure. It's an embarrassment. It creates more and more and more victims. It costs us an absolute fortune, nearly 50 grand for a basic prisoner a year. Once you start going up to the mental health prisons, it's 130 to 200,000 pounds a year for those prisoners to be kept in the mental health prisons. 200,000 pounds per prisoner per year. It's failing. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for the government, it doesn't work for the taxpayer, it doesn't work for the prisoner, it doesn't work for the victim. It doesn't work. So how do we make it work? How do we ensure that prisons actually work? Now, I had the idea when I was talking to Cody earlier that there has to be, for me anyway, prisoners for whom society will never accept any kind of rehabilitation. And I'm thinking murderers, rapists, paedophiles, right? I'm thinking those people have broken the social contract to such a degree that it is shattered, that for those people, there is no coming back. So those people, the worst of the worst, I say lock them up, throw away the key. I don't even think we should question it. Those people, they have, like I said, that social contract, they've shattered it. But then for everybody else, are there nuances? Are there ways of dealing with these criminals in a way that prevents more victims? Because surely that's the aim. Surely that is the goal, to stop there being more victims. So by helping the criminal, which is unpopular, you prevent the victim, which should be popular, right? So what kind of justice system would you like to see? It's as simple as that. What do you want? Because this mess that we've got at the moment is just failing, objectively failing. There is no way at looking at the prison and justice system in this country and saying, do you know, that's all right. The amount of money that this costs us, and again and again and again and again, more than 3/4 of all prisoners reoffend. Can't be done. This cannot go on. So what kind of system do you think would work? Now, you may think that it could be really, really tough, El Salvadorian level tough. And we've seen those prisons recently, right? Courtesy of America. That kind of prison. Or, looking at the data, would you go for Norway, which is a much gentler, kinder approach to prisoners, where they see a reoffending rate of around 20%. Give me a call. Let me know what you think. If you've ever been in the prison system, if you've ever worked in the prison system or worked with charities around the prison system, if you've ever been to prison, if you've avoided going to prison, if you know anything about this topic whatsoever, if you've been a victim of crime, and victims' voices must be heard in this conversation. So if you're a victim of crime, what kind of justice would you want? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. You can message me as well. You just put the word talk and then your message to 87222. You can WhatsApp as well on 0344 499 1000. And you can leave a short voice note there as well, but I would rather talk to you, but you can do that. I must tell you that calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back, so it shouldn't cost you more than a penny or two. Right, let's get to your calls now, and Brian is in Whitley Bay. Hello, Brian, how are you?
Oh, hiya, Petrie. I'm fantastic, thanks.
Good to talk to you again.
Oh, thank you. A couple of interesting points I was going to make. Anybody who attacks a prison officer should be given 7 or 8 years extra added on their sentence.
Couldn't agree more.
You know, that's the first thing. That would be a massive deterrent, I think, if they are given extra time added on their sentence, something like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, a standard rate, just immediately, no going to court, nothing. You just straight away you get that time. I'm with you on that.
Because you're already inside, you just get the time added on, and I think that's what they should do. It should be down to the discretion of the person who's in charge of the prison what you get. Depending well, obviously, we don't want anybody like harm any of the officers. So anybody, attacks somebody with hot water or a weapon or something, that's what they should get. Full stop.
I agree.
I really do think that we need prisons where people can have their own cells, because I think when people are together, there's fighting, squabbling going on, and other prisoners are getting harmed, bullied by other prisoners. So I do think we need prisons with single cells. And one thing what we could do here is the really tough prisoners who are really difficult to manage, we should end up building modern state-of-the-art prisons somewhere in Cambodia where it'd be cheaper, to build them and send them out there and let them do the sentence in in a far-flung place, in a modern type of prison where it would be very inexpensive to build, but have all the secure facilities where they can't get out and everything.
Yeah, that's sort of what Donald Trump's talking about, isn't it? He wants cheaper prisons in foreign lands for what he's saying is the worst of American.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but yeah, it would be a good idea, because obviously land's cheaper to build, elsewhere. And another thing, when people are in prison, mate, to stop the drugs nonsense going on, what they should do is you can go and see your family, but you're behind a thick glass wall about, 18 inches or 20 inches thick, where there's holes in with speakers in, so you can talk through the glass to your relatives, but you can't actually hand anything over. You can still see them physically, but obviously, you're not able, because prison's not there for fun. You're in prison because you're in there for a reason. You physically can see your family, but you're not able to have any personal contact with them. Do you know what I mean? You can just sit.
Well, a lot of the drugs, believe it or not, are being flown in by drone.
Well,
I don't know how. Why can't they just block the signal? I don't understand.
Yeah, well, why can't the prison officers go outside the yards or whatever and pick these drones up? Do you know what I mean? Where they are, because obviously people in prisons are obviously giving out information where they're going to be at a certain time. That should all be stopped, so they can't do that. You know what I mean? It's just pretty straightforward. But that's how I think it should be. People in prison, you can see your relatives behind glass. You can't hand anything over. You can speak to them, they can hear you audible and see them, because to me that's, in my opinion, prisons are not there. You're not there for fun. You know what I mean? You've done something wrong, and obviously, but I do believe that all prisoners should have their own cells. Those who are persistent troublemakers should be just kept in the cells, food handed on the tray underneath the door where they can't be a nuisance to anybody else or harm anybody else, because there are a lot of prisoners in prison who are harmed by other prisoners, and I think that's wrong. You know what I mean? Because everybody's in prison for the same thing, and therefore no other prisoner has a right. No matter what somebody's done, no other prisoner has a right to go and slash you with a can or a lid or something. Do you know what I mean? And therefore, I think everybody should have their own cells.
Being in prison is the punishment, right? The deprivation of your liberty is the prison. It is the punishment. There shouldn't be further punishments, violent punishments eked out on top of that. But Brian, I tend to think that the drugs in prisons is the point. I think that is that a lot of people want the drugs in prisons, including the prison officers, because a cellmate that's out off his head is going to be a lot easier to control, right? There's going to be presumably less violence, or.
Well, yeah, again, I think they should all have their own cells. If someone's a nuisance, you just keep them in the cell, hand the food under the door, and they're going to behave themselves or whatever. They can come out and do a bit of exercise in the exercise yard, but if not, you just stay in your cell. But it does worry me that other people go in prison and they attack other prisoners because obviously, they might owe money to a drugs dealer in prison and haven't got the money to pay them or whatever. I don't know how it works, but, no other prisoner has a right to go and hurt another prisoner because they're all in there for the same thing, and therefore it should be, standard that everybody is kept safe. No matter what they've done, so to speak. And I think having your own cell, and if you want to come out your cell, you can come out. If you want to stay in the cell, you can stay in. Let them have a TV in the cell if they need it. They can't sit there with nothing in there, but obviously they can't. They've got their own cell and they can't. They don't have to mix with other prisoners if they don't want to. They can serve the time in there. And that's how it should be, I think, with the prisons. Because when these gangs get together, they all seem to have there's certain people on certain levels who have got their own little clique, and everything. I've seen it all on the TV, by the way.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
know,
I wouldn't want to go to prison.
No, like I say, that's how we should have the real bad prisoners, the rapists, murderers, child killers. Send them off somewhere like Cambodia, build a prison out there. I think the Cambodians will be quite happy. Well, any country that's in the Far East or whatever, that's that, build a prison out there, modern prison, so they can even put their own prisoners in there. But make sure these guys are in these prisons so they can't get out. And I think, like a top security prison, I think that these other countries would be very happy to get them because they can't build them themselves. So it's cheaper.
So would that be, you think, a deterrent to because prisons don't seem to be working as a deterrent in this country?
I think a lot of people who are thrown out somewhere else, especially the dangerous prisoners, and we're put in these places and they know it's not easy to get out, and the prison officers out there are not so, I think they'll probably be much more tougher than what they are here. They wouldn't dare mess around or step out of line out there. I think they would be sorted out, but in my opinion, I just think that prisoners should have their own cells and everybody should be, like, kept safe. They're in prison, I mean, no matter what they've done, they're in there, whatever. But those who cause violence towards other prisoners or prison officers should get like extended time added on.
Yeah, I agree with that, Brian. I think that people, do deserve to be safe in prison. And they also, the idea that you can just wantonly take drugs whenever you feel like it, I've never understood it. It should be the one place that you don't have access to drugs or phones or, all sorts of things. But I have done a phone in here where there was a prisoner who was explaining to me how they get phones and drugs into prisons, and we won't go back to that conversation unless you want to. But yeah, no, not nice. But yeah, I mean, they've all got phones, they've all got drugs. There should be the one place you can't get any of that stuff, surely. So it must be deliberate to keep them quiet. Quick break, back in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good morning to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie with you. We are having a conversation at the moment about prisons in this country and the whole prison system, because it's an absolute failure. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. It is a joke. It is a joke. It is not serving anybody. It is not helping anybody. It's not helping us to stay safe. It is not keeping the victim numbers down. It is not helping the prisoners. It is not helping the prison guards. It's not helping the taxpayer. It's not helping anybody. It is a nonsense. It is a complete nonsense, and the entirety of it should be scrapped and rewritten and re-decide what we're going to do about how we treat prisoners in this country. And I don't mean, oh, we've got to go all light and fluffy. I'm saying that there are those prisoners for whom the social contract has been crushed. There is no way back. I'm sorry, a paedophile, what are we doing letting them out on the streets? They shouldn't be out. That's it. You've broken the social contract. You've done one of the worst things possible, imaginable. You should be, that's it, you go away. Go away with the murderers and the rapists and the terrorists, and we never want to see you again. You've broken the rules to such a degree that the contract is gone, right? Rip that up, throw you away. For anybody else and any other crime, they should be treated differently. Maybe there's hope. Maybe there is rehabilitation that can happen. Maybe these people we can help become better citizens, to rejoin society, to agree that for them all is not lost. So you've got two very distinctive systems. The whole idea that one system fits every criminal, I think, is ridiculous. I don't even know why that was ever a thing. Because, like I said, there are those for whom there is no way back. None. Sorry, you're gone. That's it. Finished. But other people who've committed other crimes, maybe there is a way back. Drug crimes, burglary, poverty-led crimes, shoplifting, TV licence evasion of the fine. Those people, there is a different path, perhaps, for them to come back. So maybe we just have to decide which crimes we say are unforgivable and which crimes can be, in a sense, forgiven once punishment has taken place and once there has been some kind of justice eked out for those, because there's always victims, there's still victims. So what kind of justice system, what kind of prison system would you like? That's my idea. You have two very different sets of criminals that we treat differently. What would you do? 0344 499 1000. Paul is in Stockport. I was born in Stockport, Paul.
Was you really?
I was actually born in Stockport.
Which park? It's a big Stockport now. It's a big Stockport.
Near Wythenshawe. Is that right? That's Manchester. Which?
Yeah.
I can't. Do you know what?
Isn't it? Is it Cheadle?
Cheadleham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My son lives there actually.
Oh, does he? No, I always say
Yeah.
Manchester because it makes it easier, but it was actually Stockport, so I'm a Stockport-born lass.
Yeah, it comes under Stockport, that. Then you go over the main Wimslow Road there, and it then becomes Borough of Manchester.
Yeah. My bank account is in Wimslow, actually.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just bizarrely. There you go.
Mine's a national underline, by the way, you know.
Anyway, Paul, thank you for calling. What do you think about prisons? Have you got any experience?
Yeah, as a boy, when I was 16, a long time ago, in 1980, I got into trouble for nicking cars.
Right.
A couple of cars and that, nothing major. But we did 6 months in the old detention centres. At the time, it was, I don't know if you remember, the Tory government, Willie Whitelaw, he wanted a short shock treatment.
Yes.
And it was for 16 to 21-year-olds, you know. But nevertheless, it was based on a prison model. And the officers, like, they were ex-military or ex-police officers. The vast majority of them were. And because the police officers, with them retiring at 55, they've still got a lot to offer here.
Yeah.
And the old style police officer then was, 6'2".
Yeah, they were a lot tougher, right?
Yeah, you do as you plays rugby on a Saturday afternoon, and you do as you're told, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the regime they had. That was the mantra, that look, you do exactly as you're told, and you earned you even had to earn your own toothpaste. You got credits at the tuck shop, and out of this money in the tuck shop, it was like virtual money. It wasn't. They didn't give you the actual cash. You'd have to buy like your soap and your deodorants and things like that. What were seen as things you could earn, whereas now they're just given out willy-nilly.
Yeah, so they were seen as luxuries when you were 16.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it worked really well. I mean, the vast majority of people I come across did behave and cooperate. Occasionally there were, flare-ups, because you'll get that with young lads and what have you. But that model, I think, worked because you knew where you were. And after about being in there for a couple of weeks, you knew about getting up at 6:30, you knew about doing a bed pack, you knew about your work party. You know what I mean? You knew pretty much where you stood. And I think people respond to that, whereas you look at it now, God, I'd be frightened to death me to go into prison now. I think going into prison now would be one of the worst things.
I agree.
Frighten me to death.
Yeah, I agree. But it's interesting what you say, Paul. So when you were 16, this was very structured. You had to be up at 6:30. You had to have tidied your cell and sorted out your bed. Was there sort of compulsory exercise and?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we run like
an army camp.
Yeah, a bit like an army camp. We was on initially first 5 nights. Somehow you're in cells, then you get designated a dormitory. I think it had about. It's like the old infirmaries. We have like 20 odd beds.
All right.
Very much like that, based on that. So you have your own little cupboard and what have you, but you're responsible for we all have jobs to do. The prison officers who are the same ones, do you know what I mean, who each day, if you like, they're the same group. So you get to know them, if you like.
So very much like being a young army recruit, where you're just disciplined. Every minute is filled, and you're doing something, whether it's cooking duties or cleaning duties or gardening duties or exercise, or every minute of the day is filled with something.
It was from 15, I think, to 20, 21. But so if you was under 16, you had to do your schoolwork.
Right.
I mean, I just left school, so I was on the gardens, the prison gardens, so we grew potatoes and stuff like that, But going back to a point you brought up early on about rehabilitation, I mean, I was lucky. I was outside in the fresh air in the garden, but I did have a pitchfork. But I wouldn't want to be in a big prison now, having that now when all these drugs are about, because you don't know what's going through people's mind now, do you? It frightened me to death.
So this short, sharp shock that you had, Paul, did it straighten you out?
Yeah, I never went back into custody. I mean, I had 1 or 2 run-ins at the football, but they were very minor in comparison to.
But it wasn't criminal. You decided that criminality was not for you.
Not for me, and they reckon all at that time is that something like 70% of the people it didn't go back to commit any crime, whereas now it's a lot less.
Well, if you look at the youth detention centres now, it's not. It doesn't appear to be run on that model at all. It seems to be they've got Xboxes and they've got a lot of time to waste. They're not.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of particularly young people and the age group you're talking about of going into an incredibly disciplined environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the world today and what's going on. I mean, Russia and the threat from there, and then we're going to have to do a lot of recruits. We're going to have to. I mean, Stein was on about giving young people or certain people army training. What they used to call it, subscription type thing. Yeah,
there's like the TA training and stuff like that.
Yeah. So pick them up young, sort them out, sell them, and then there's an opportunity here for you to go into army, British Army, and do something with your life. They'll learn your skill as well. Keep away from that, but.
Yeah, but these. I mean, I hate to say the youth of today, but I'm going to. They don't like discipline. I mean, nobody likes discipline, right?
No.
But you know, when I was at school, it was very, you know, even just at school, it was very disciplined. And they took us on a school trip to visit a prison. And oh my God, if ever I thought about being a criminal mastermind, having seen that at you know, at 10 years old, terrified me. Absolutely terrified. There's no way I would ever. My biggest fear is being falsely accused of something.
Yeah. I think we've all got that fear, haven't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to put that mindset in them early on. I mean, if I took my granddaughters through Ashton Town Centre and I said, look at all these people begging and sleeping in doorways, you don't want to be one of them, so don't do this.
Yeah.
Because drugs is what's changed everything. For the last 50 years, drugs has been the one thing what's changed everything for everybody. It's affected so many lives. Where we live in East Manchester, it is just rampant.
Yeah, there's a particular problem, isn't there, with spice and things like that in Manchester.
There's a lot of synthetic stuff kicking about now, what have you, and they're targeting the kids, they're giving it on for a couple of quid because they know they can spend their pocket money on it, you know, and then they get into something a bit higher, and it's a vicious circle. But that's the game changer for me, drugs, because we never had that. I think occasionally I'd heard somebody sniffing Tipex or
those
and
pens.
It was a bit of glue, weren't it? Somebody had the glue bottle in the car or something.
No, those felt tip pens as well.
Yeah.
That was about as far as that was as close as we got, wasn't it?
It was.
And I think you're right. I do think, but the interesting you say you wouldn't want to go into prison now because of the drugs, because people are going to be, you know, they're not of their right mind. And it's I would have thought it'd be one place where you shouldn't be able to get drugs, but no.
Well, you'd think so, yeah. I mean, you sort of alluded to early on as well about what President Trump's doing with these people going back to wherever it is, Nicaragua or whatever. But then people are not going to, the way they were getting dealt with by the prison officer there, they weren't giving them any grief, were they?
Well, but because that's inhuman.
It is, yeah.
That's
but I'm not saying we should go back to that. No, not at all. But we need to get tougher. There's just no. The toughest job in the world today is definitely got to be a prison officer.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it.
Absolutely unbelievable, because you're living with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're actually living it, and there's no escape, is there?
I don't know why anybody would want to be a prison guard. I really, I cannot imagine a worse job.
No.
I really can't. I mean, and the thanks they get as well, zero. They're not even properly compensated. They don't even get paid properly. You know, I think it's just must be the toughest thing.
Well, they're getting something like just above the minimum wage.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with the most dangerous people in the country.
And
some of them are young, aren't they? Some of our prison officers are young, and they've just not got the
gravitas,
life skills to do it.
No, I agree. It's really, really bad. I mean, this is why prisons aren't working, isn't it? Because the prisoners aren't scared of the prison guards, and the prison guards are retreating. It's like the police retreating from the streets, isn't it? Because it's too rough out there, and you think, well, that's kind of your job. But awful system. It's just failing everybody. But I really like the idea of that for younger people. That sort of really tough kind of discipline. Not being beaten up or anything, but just tough discipline. Paul, great to speak to you. Thank you. Excellent call. Thank you very much indeed. Right, quick break. Back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie with you. So in general, 75% of us here in Britain believe that the prison system is functioning badly. 75% of us think it is, and it is functioning badly. I mean, it isn't functioning. Let's be really clear about this. It is failing. And I don't know why all of these governments, they go, oh yeah, tough on crime. You know, oh, we're the party of crime and justice. It is nonsense. Somebody's got to do the tough work. Somebody's got to look at this system and say, with a reoffending rate of 78%, it's failing. There's no if, buts or maybes. This is a system that has got to be scrapped, and we've got to come up with something completely different. Completely different. It isn't working. So, what kind of system do you think we should have? Couple of messages here I want to read before I go back to the phones. If guards are smuggling drugs, they should be sacked and imprisoned themselves. The trouble is then they wouldn't have enough prison places, I don't think. The problem is drugs. We should just decriminalise them. Prisoners come out to what? The street. I've never committed a crime in my life. The idea of 3 square meals, a bed and a decent community doesn't sound that bad. They've got more freedom in there than we do out here. But you wouldn't want to, would you? I wouldn't want to be in there. Sean says, in Norway, they have the lowest reoffending rate. They do. It's around 20%. And they work on rehabilitation and treat people like humans. Maybe that is what we should be doing and get to the root cause of why the person has offended, because no one is born bad. And that's from Sean in Liverpool. No, I don't think that... I don't think people are born bad, but I do think that there are those people, and I've said it before, that have shredded the social contract. That for them, there's no forgiveness, there's no coming back from that. Terrorists, rapists, paedophiles, of that ilk. So I think those people, it is beyond. It would just certainly beyond my capacity to be forgiving and to help them to a better life when they have removed the life of somebody else. And make no mistake, a rapist has done that. Even if the victim is still alive, she or he has been raped, and that has changed them forever. That their life is not what it was or what it was going to be. The same with a paedophile. That even though they may not have killed the child, what they've done to that child has changed that child's life forever and stolen what it was going to be. So for those people, I think there is no path forward. I genuinely believe that. I think it's asking too much for us to be kind to them. But for other criminals, I would agree with you. I think that maybe we should treat them like humans. A lot of crimes are born from poverty. They're born, not that I'm suggesting that all poor people become criminals, because that simply isn't the case, but they are born from poverty and drugs and alcohol and mental health issues and that go untreated. I think that for those people, a little bit of kindness and support, I believe, could turn them around and get to the heart of why they have gone down that path. They've been excluded from society, or they've been, abjectly bullied or ruined by somebody else. They are victims themselves to some degree. So those people, yes, I do. I'm with you, Sean. I think that we should treat them like human beings and we should help them. But for others, I don't. And maybe that means that maybe I'm a bad person, but I just can't. There are some people that, no, you're gone, as far as I'm concerned. So thank you, Sean. Joanna says we need super max prisons for the worst prisoners to protect prison staff and other prisoners, e.g. Terrorists, brutal murderers, not what looks like cushy apartments with privileges, long and medium stay, rehabilitation and education, open prisons for non-violent, shorter stay prisoners that should have rehabilitation, work ethic, training and various educational facilities. And Joanna, I agree with that. So we are sort of talking about the same thing, aren't we? We're talking about the fact that this one-size system is supposed to fit all. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for anybody. So I'm with Joanna on that. I think we're on the same page there, in that we have these hellhole prisons for which there is no return. I don't care what that goes, or they can eat rats. I don't care. Those people, I have no sympathy, empathy, or anything for them. But for everybody else, a more nuanced system to prevent further victims, any future victims. I think that's where we need to be heading as well, Joanna. Carol is in Manchester. Morning, Carol.
Oh, good morning. Can I just say, Paul Stockport, great call.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing call and whatever. And then if you listen to him, you know, like when he was 16 and I was there at 16, 17, 18 with lots of my friends. And some of my friends did what he did, especially the lads and whatever. And they came out of it and they're great, absolutely fantastic adults.
Yeah.
Great people and whatever. You know why? Because they were given that discipline. They were given that area to stop them from doing what they should have done.
Yeah.
You know, like at that time, that stupidity, that. And there was a few that went through and that went through the worst areas, you know, like and bad people and whatever, and you always have that. But unfortunately, we're talking about prisons now. That's the end. That is the end of people. That is where else can we put them? What we need to go back is right at 16, at them younger ages or whatever, and stop it. Just stop it. And we can't have it where we can have a polite discussion with them, you know, like depending on what it is. I totally agree with you. Paedophiles, murderers and whatever, just throw away the key.
Yeah, I can't.
Whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah, I can't find it in my heart to go, oh, well, there's probably been...
I can't.
You know, oh, bless them.
I honestly, truthfully know, in my lifetime anyway, I know that them kind of people, you'll never, ever change. And there is people that you can change, but you have to get hold of them very early, and you have to give them that kind of... We all live with rules. The majority of us all live with rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have to stay within those rules. And if we come off that road with those rules, we need somebody strict to put us back on that good path.
And we don't have it at schools anymore, Carol. We don't have it at schools anymore.
Oh, my God, I've told you about my daughter who was a teacher for years and years and years. She's in colleges now. It was absolutely horrendous. These teachers, these police, these hospital people, they're getting tortured by a certain amount of people who can just say whatever they want to say to them. And we were talking about language now, where people get sued for whatever it be, it's stupidity. You know, like we have to draw it all back, and we have to, you know, like we're talking about living in this society. What kind of society do you want to live in? You know, like how dare that our police and our, you know, like officers in prisons, people that are working hospitals, people that are in teaching, you know, all our public people are getting abused.
Yeah.
They're absolutely... Our soldiers now are getting abused. You know, like it's absolutely... Where the hell's all this come from? It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And you can call it human rights, free speech, whatever. I really don't give a damn. But you know why? Because the ordinary people, us people that are out here, we're like you. We agree with you. But somebody's not listening to us all. I don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't get how any government can look at this system that we've got at the moment, where we have the highest reoffending rate of all of these countries that I've got in front of me here, of the Western world, the highest, and say that that is a system worth continuing with.
We've gone absolutely stupid. And the stupid thing about it is, unfortunate, the governments that we are voting in, whoever it be or whatever, are not, why are they not listening, or why are they not getting feedback?
Do you know why, Carol? Because they don't want to do the hard graft. Exactly. They really don't want to.
I don't think the proper MPs or whatever, I think it's more towards what they want in life and not what we want in life. Do you understand what I mean?
They're not public servants anymore. They don't serve us anymore, because and you look at a system like this, and I'm telling you that everybody, the government must know that this is a failed system, and they all blame each other. But the truth of the matter is that it's going to take a very brave person to say, right, we need to scrap this and start again, and go back to the drawing board, because this is an absolute embarrassment. It's a joke. In the whole of the Western world, the worst reoffending rate.
We're looking stupid.
It's ridiculous.
We're one of the main civilised countries in the world.
We invented most of these systems. I know. We really do look like clowns. We really do. Carol, thank you. I'm going to take a very quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. And some more messages here I want to read out to you. Sam says, I'm ashamed to admit my son went to young offenders. However, I begged and begged for them to stop letting him off and continually fining me, as it didn't work. Well, good for you. What a good mum or dad, Sam. I don't know which way you are. As it didn't work. Finally, after the 10th time he was sent down, it worked. He's now working in management with a young family. Unfortunately, it was what he needed. I think I'm going to say mum. Brilliant of you, though. I mean, what a decision to have to make as a parent. Oh my God, I so admire you. I might even start hero worshipping you, because that is a really big deal. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes that's exactly what they need. And look what you've done for him. Look what you've done for him. Brilliant. And don't be ashamed either. You shouldn't be ashamed. Bobcat says, I worked in prison for 19 years. There are warehouses that are neglected, brutal and lacking direction. However, that's only half the problem. Society is the other issue. We have forgotten how to forgive, how to assist those that have changed their lives. So why should they bother? Absolutely right. I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Ernie says, I overheard a conversation in a pub where some guy was talking to his mate who'd just come out of prison about dealing drugs. And he said, aren't you worried about going back into prison? And his mate said, are you mad? I make more money selling in prison than on the outside. I can charge 3 times as much. I come out with thousands in the bank, have a ball for a few months until I'm caught and then start all over again. Something fundamentally wrong with that, isn't there? Doesn't quite work. Doesn't quite work, does it? Right, let's go to your calls now. And Terry is in Dover. Good morning, Terry.
Yes, it is good morning.
It is good morning.
I was going to say good evening, but of course it's good morning, actually, yes.
It's already morning.
Yeah, there's various aspects to this, Petrie, isn't there? I mean, drugs was mentioned just then. I mean, it's probably a cliche to say these things, but, I mean, most crime these days now is to feed a drug habit, isn't it? And they know, and they know they're not going to get caught because the police are stretched. We all know they're not turning up to certain things, a lot of things, and they just act with impunity, these people. And that message you read out just now about the drugs, yes, I mean, you do hear these reports of prisons being awash with drugs and drones flying them in and everything.
It's ridiculous now. There's a report coming out today talking exactly about that and just saying that it's out of control now.
Yeah, but I mean, I was quite struck by something that Zia Youssef, the chairman of Reform, said recently, that, you know, there's lots of young people that just need a complete moral reset. I mean, they haven't got role models, some of them. You know, they get into drugs, they steal to feed their drug habit. Their literacy and numeracy is not very good. Now, Angela Rayner has got this house building program, and the house builders are complaining that they can't get staff. Well, that's a classic thing for rehabilitation in prison, isn't it? For prisoners to train in those sorts of things, and they're guaranteed to get jobs when they come out.
Completely. I mean, and this is the thing. I mean, particularly with youth offending, and most criminals are obviously they are going to be younger. They're the ones, you know, that are taking the drugs, nicking the cars, because it's not an old man's game, right?
No, young men, aren't they?
Yeah. So yeah, but we don't put enough money or effort into rehabilitation. Most of the time, prisoners are in their cell, you know, for 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
And there isn't the money, there's not the staff to get people to training lessons or to apprenticeships or to anything like that, which is exactly what we should be doing.
I thought they were doing that, actually.
Well, they might spend a couple of hours a week doing it. But they spend the rest of the time in their cells, bored out of their brains, which is why they take drugs. Yeah. And so the cycle continues, and then they're let out of prison with a drug habit.
Yeah.
And then they need to feed that drug habit, and there we go again, which is why we've got 78% of criminals who reoffend.
Yeah, but they need, you know, I mean, it's been said before, how many of them have got absent fathers, you know, and the mothers valiantly trying to bring them up properly, but they get into gangs, and then there's knives and all these sorts of things now. But they do need role models. But I always think, Petrie, I mean, most of them are into football and music. Well, you know, what about the stars in those? Can't they come out and act as role models or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some prisoners, they have prison radio and things like that, actually award-winning. Prison radio has won a few awards. And things like that. They're really, really good. And just some prisons, I think it's a postcode lottery again, as with everything else in this country, that you've got people who, some prisons where the whole scheme there is about rehabilitation and helping people and getting them educated, getting them to learn to read and write at least to a basic level, and others where they're just used as warehouses. And I think you can't expect somebody to come out of prison being a better person. if you don't help them become one?
Well, no, that's where the role models come in, inside prison as well. And, the people who are training them in bricklaying and carpentry and the rest of them, I mean, they're decent people. They can act as almost like surrogate fathers, some of them. I mean, possibly. The other point I wanted to say is your point about, segregating criminals by what they do. Obviously, I always infuriates me when, okay, you get some murderers who get whole life terms because they're really horrendous murders, but others, premeditated. There was a programme on Channel 4 tonight, and he killed his girlfriend. It was premeditated, and the judge said, 17 years before you're eligible for parole. Well, that person he's killed is never going to walk again.
Never going to walk again. No, that for me, as far as I'm concerned, that is the social contract has been torn up.
Yeah.
You don't deserve to live.
Well,
in society.
Capital punishment.
No. I mean, in society, as far as I'm concerned, you can just go. I don't hold with capital punishment,
no,
but
I don't,
I think that you don't deserve to live in society ever.
No.
You've deprived somebody of their life, and a rapist does that as well.
Well, that's a moot point, though, rapism. I mean,
no, you deprive somebody of their life. Their life is forever changed. It is not going to ever be what it was going to be.
That is very true, actually. Yeah.